been charged with the firearms on his behalf. So that person is telling us that the company has got 815 firearms in their books, in their safes. That for now does not correspond with the record that we have as the police, because our records indicate that this company should be having at least over 850 firearms.
Nechiwenda says this operation will soon target other security businesses as police ensure that security companies are not flaunting the Firearms Control Act. Nhlanhla Mabaso, Eyewitness News, Durban.
The family of a 19-year-old boy who was shot and killed at a spaza shop in Drifsands in Cape Town says they are struggling to come to terms with his death. Lita Govuza and a friend were attacked by alleged extortionists while buying food at a local spaza shop last month. His friend survived the shooting and was rushed to hospital. Drifsands falls under the Mfuleni policing precinct, an area that has recorded several extortion-related shootings in recent months. Ntutu Zelenene visited the victim's family today.
A small group of community members has gathered outside Lita Govuza's home in Drifsands, singing and holding placards that read "Justice for Lita" in support of the grieving family. The 19-year-old was killed only a short distance from his home. It's been nearly a month since the attack, and his family says they still seek justice. Instead of answers, they say they have been re-traumatized by a video circulating on social media that appears to show his execution. His sister, Kanya Govuza, says her brother was targeted.
It's very painful watching that video because Lita was a good boy, so it's painful to see him die like that, as if he did something bad to someone.
Police say they are following up on fresh leads. This after authorities shared surveillance footage of a person of interest linked to the case. Ntutu Zelenene, Eyewitness News in Drifsands.
And Chinese tech giant Alibaba has missed revenue expectations in its December quarterly earnings. The company, which runs some of China's biggest online shopping platforms, has seen its core e-commerce business squeezed by price wars and a slow consumption in the world's second largest economy. The company is now pinning its hopes on AI following the profit drop. It is one of several Chinese firms that have been rushing to catch up with U.S. companies in the AI race. In your financials, gold is trading at $4,549.84 an ounce. The rand is $16.98 to the dollar, $22.58 to the pound, and $19.50 to the euro. Brent crude oil's at $113 a barrel.
Traffic lights not working in Devland. This is at the Golden Highway in Main Road. Also, traffic lights out of order. Sherendi, Malibongo Drive, and the N1, as well as in Kaya Sand at Malibongo Drive and Boundary.
In your sport, Ronaldo Linier named in Bafana Bafana's squad for Panama friendlies as Sipho chain is dropped. Patrice Motsepe admits that CAF is struggling with trust issues following Morocco AFCON decision. And Charles Howell III leading the pack as Steyn City plays host to Live Golf's fifth leg.
Gauteng can expect a partly cloudy Friday tomorrow with isolated showers and thundershowers expected. Johannesburg drops to overnight lows of 14 degrees, rising to 27. Pretoria a low of 16 and a high of 28. Vereeniging 14 and 28 degrees. The top story in EWN this hour. The Madlanga Commission of Inquiry has heard evidence on how Gauteng cop Sergeant Faningosi tried to intervene in an invoice dispute between the Tshwane municipality and a service provider.
EWN, in touch, in tune, and independent. For the latest, visit ewn.co.za or download the EWN app.
702.
Live
On the Prime Media Plus app.
DSTV channel 856,
92.7.
and 106 FM. Let's walk the talk.
Good afternoon and welcome to Afternoon Drive with John Perlman. 702 Drive with John Perlman is proudly brought to you by Telkom Business. Possible begins here. Thank you so much for tuning in. It is 6 minutes past 3. That means it's time for Afternoon Drive. My name is Komotso Modise. I'm in for John Perlman this afternoon. Lovely to be in your company. It is a Thursday afternoon. So how's your Amper Friday going on your side? I'm here to drive you home with the team here in studio. We've got quite quite the show prepared for you this afternoon. We're going to be beginning or taking a look at the Madlanga Commission. There's breaking news coming out of the Madlanga Commission. We see that EFF leader Julius Malema has been implicated there. We're hearing testimony. I think it's Sergeant Faninkosi. That's the witness. He's been on the witness stand for a while now, about 4 days that he's been testifying, and it's really been explosive testimony coming out from the commission there. So looking forward to touching base with Tabi Sokoba, the EWN reporter who's covering that story. And then we'll get to speak to Philip Snyman, the coach of the Blitzboks, the Sevens, after their phenomenal World Series win. And I'm really looking forward to hearing about how he's managed to just turn things around in that team. And then recent data by APSA has revealed that 50% of South Africa's first-time home buyers are single women. That's a whole lot. More than 50% single women. So we're going to be having that conversation in Your House, Your Home a little later on in the show. And then, of course, we wrap up the show with our music feature, and I'm looking forward to that one. Today, we're taking songs that you had no business singing as a child. And now you listen back or you think about the lyrics and you think, what was I doing singing that song as an 11-year-old? I'm sure there's those songs that you have that you sang and now you think, I shouldn't have sung that song. That's what's coming up on the show. On the afternoon drive team today, the two Karabos are in studio with me. Karabo Malapile is the technical producer. Karabo Jale is watching the roads. Rufue and Jono are taking your calls. Zingisat Shira has your news updates. Tolagana Mganga is on sport. And Stephen Grootes has your money news. That's the show. To join the conversation, the number to dial is 011-883-0702. Or send us a WhatsApp on 072-702-1702. If you'd rather get in touch with me on X, my handle is at @moto_Modise. That's at @moto_Modise. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I'm looking forward to driving you home. Good afternoon.
Let's walk the talk.
702.
So it is a Thursday, and it's just one of those days in the week, hey, where it's not quite Friday, but we're almost there. We are just a few hours away from Friday, so I don't think we should be worrying too much about that. There's a lot that's been happening at the Madlanga Commission today, and I know for some of us, we had taken a bit of a break from the Madlanga Commission yesterday. There is, I think what happened was that there were events at the ad hoc committee. That's in Parliament. And that's where we saw General Ndlandla Mkhwanazi, who's been testifying there. He was the last witness for the ad hoc committee yesterday. And during his testimony, he said something that I found to be very, very interesting. He said that Vusmuzi Madlanga, someone that we've been referring to as the alleged crime kingpin, he is not, he said he's not part of the Big Five. So you may remember, we first heard of the Big Five in January this year during the testimony of General Dumsani Khumalo, the crime intelligence boss. And in the infographic that was shared, we saw Vusmuzi Madlanga as one of those people. Now, it was interesting for me yesterday to hear General Ndlandla Mkhwanazi saying he's not in the Big Five. And then he goes on to say he's a non-starter. He says Vusmuzi Madlanga really wants to be part of the Big Five. He really does. And he's tried to replace someone in the Big Five, but he's not in the Big Five at all. And that really surprised me, because I was then thinking, what do you mean? This person, according to the testimony that we've heard at the Madlanga Commission, is a really dangerous man. A really ruthless man. And the fact that you are saying that a person who has all these charges against him is accused of all these horrible crimes is not even in the Big Five. Who's in this Big Five? And how dangerous are the people in the Big Five? If a Madlanga, who's accused of, for example, the kidnapping of Jerry Bushokga and the torture of Jerry Bushokga, is a non-starter, then how dangerous are the real people in the Big Five? And I've been wondering, Karabo Jale, good afternoon.
Afternoon, Khomoto.
I've been wondering then, thinking, I mean, we've all been saying, oh, the Madlanga Commission has shown us just how deep-seated the rot is. But do you think we've even really started hearing just how bad things are?
No. I mean, the mere fact that they can question a person for until midnight and try to find information, and every day there's new information coming up, and it's scary. And for me now, I'm just totally at a loss from Mkonazi's what is this?
Testimony, yes.
Testimony. Because, gee whiz, that means this mystery is pretty deep. And the shocking part about it is when people are dying.
Yeah.
You go there, you become a witness. The next day, you're dead.
Yes.
And who's covering up? Who are they protecting? That's the scary thing. And we're having politicians being implicated and all those things. Those are our leaders. So just thinking about it just actually frustrates me. It reminds me of that book, A Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, where there's that hacker. Do you know it?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's all exactly like that because you never know where it's going to end. I mean, ministers are implicated. Presidents are implicated. It's just, one of those.
I mean, Rufue, do you think that we have a sense? I mean, do you think we've even gotten to half of how bad things are in this country? Because from where I'm sitting, I thought that, okay, wow, we've learned that things are just really, really bad, the corruption in the police. But it sounds to me that if a person like Madlanga is a non-starter, according to Mkwanazi, that means the guy at the top of the big five is really, really brutal. And that scares me.
Good afternoon, Khumutso and the rest of the 702 family. I always say it feels like our country is a movie.
Yeah.
And we are just extras in that movie. You know, like, yo, there's a bomb, there's this. When it comes to this whole situation, man, there's so many questions I have.
Yeah.
You know, I don't have answers. You think you have the answers like Karabo was alluding to, but you really don't have answers, which is quite scary because how far does this rot go?
Yeah.
Who's that guy at the top? Who's the puppet master? Because, I mean, if you're saying, Cat is AKA an ice boy.
Yes, that's actually a great term.
AKA.
Yes.
And he's done so much. It's something to worry about. But maybe we will get to who the big guy is at the top of the chain.
I don't think we ever will.
Strings. Maybe. I don't know. I'm cautiously optimistic, but I don't know. I'm very ambivalent about it.
Yeah.
So the other thing is that Mkonazi seems to know a lot.
Yeah.
And why isn't he just telling us what's what in the zoo? Because why is he telling us bits by bit?
Yeah, that also worries me. And I know that yesterday he said, that a lot of it is being investigated, so he can't speak about it. So he couldn't give information about a meeting that he had also with Madlanga and with General Senona. So he said he couldn't, give much details about that. But what scares me really is that I don't think we'll ever get to the bottom of it, especially because the ad hoc committee process is done.
Yeah.
We know that the Madlanga Commission itself was supposed to be coming to an end this month, and they've been given an extension, I think, until May. I don't think we're going to get to all of it.
Maybe we'll find out in a book, because most of these commissions, there's always some form of a book. Maybe it's all in a book, guys.
Yeah. Many years later. Listen, I want to hear from you. I mean, how worried are you? And how do you feel about the fact that Vusmozi Madlanga, the alleged crime kingpin, we've literally been calling him alleged crime boss. He's being described as a non-starter by General Ndlandla Mkhwanazi. Does that scare you? Does it make you wonder who then is in this big five and how bad is it? I was taking a look at, that infographic that was presented by General Dumsani Khumalo. And Madlanga in that infographic is there, as well as Katiso KT Molefe. They are both in that graphic. And, we got the sense that at least we've got two of the big five. But, General Mkhwanazi says that's not the case. So get in touch with us, 011-883-0702, 072-702-1702.
EWN Traffic.
The EWN Traffic is brought to you by South African Airways. Get all-inclusive fares, your seat, your meal, and your baggage. It's all in. Book at flysaa.com. Karabo, how are the roads looking?
Well, at this stage, fairly quiet, Homoto, nothing much really happening. However, if you're driving through the Edenville area, there's roadworks slowing down traffic on Modderfontein Road between Main Road and the N3. Also, traffic lights not working, Devland, Golden Highway, and Main Road. Traffic lights also out of order in Sharon Lee at Malibongo Drive and the N1. If you come across any other traffic issues, kindly WhatsApp us on 072-702-1702.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app.
This is what progress sounds like. At South African Airways, we've added more aircraft to the runway. increased our flights from just over 1,000 in 2021 to over 24,000 last year. And we continue to add more destinations and routes. It's steady progress over time. We know there's still work to do, but every day we're building something stronger. An airline that shares the resilience of the country it carries. South African Airways. Book your next flight at flysaa.com today.
For more about 702,
Go to primemediaplus.com.
Welcome back at 17 minutes past 3 right here on 702 Afternoon Drive. So, police have flagged several discrepancies while conducting a firearm compliance inspection at one of security boss Calvin Matibedi's business premises. That's in KZN. So, authorities are currently questioning the number of firearms that have been found on the property against the number or the company that is licensed to possess these firearms. And someone that's been keeping a close eye on this story is our EWN KZN correspondent, Ndandla Mabaso, and he joins us now on the line. Ndandla, good afternoon. Thank you so much for your time. Just remind us, who is Calvin Matibedi and why is he being investigated by police?
Matibedi is a businessman, a security businessman. He is the owner of Kelvin and Family Security Services. Well, he was investigated by police for alleged tender. You'd recall that on the 10th of March, there were investigators that raided his business premises in Durban North and collected technological devices and other documents and went off with that. But recently, he has been in the media for his court battle with Ntantla Mkhwanazi, the police head in KwaZulu-Natal. Ntantla Mkhwanazi took Matibedi to court after he allegedly said that Mkhwanazi is abusing his power and uses police for personal gains. But also, that was something Mkhwanazi took to the court. The court in Durban then ruled in favor of Provincial Commissioner Mkhwanazi, saying that Matibedi must apologize and that he must use the same platform he used, which is media. And then indeed, he did appeal that particular court case. But when the police on Monday now flagged to him that they will be raiding his property. This is a different case, I must mention, also from what the police were initially investigating him for. Police in KwaZulu-Natal say that they will be doing what they are doing at his business premises in Durban North with all security companies. It's called a firearms inspection. So basically, they're saying they're checking if security businesses are complying. They want to know that all the firearms owned by businesses are indeed legal. They say Calvin Matibedi on paper also with SABS, because any security company would register with SIRA, and then of course SABS would know how many security companies are operating in the province, how many firearms does each have. With Calvin Matibedi's one, we are told that it has about 850 firearms. That's on paper. However, the person he appointed to be in charge of the armory told the police that there's only 815. So police are actually trying to check if those were moved to the province properly, were some taken properly, because when you move a bunch of firearms from one province to another, from one place to another, there must be records of that. But they're also flagging discrepancies like where the register or records are supposed to be, registered or written with a black pen. They say with some it's a pencil, which raises issues because a pencil can easily be erased and then rewritten again. So those are some of the issues that SAP says they've managed to pick up thus far.
Yeah, and I mean, you spoke about the court battle between Matibedi and Mkhwanazi, which is one way we'd remember Calvin Matibedi from. But just remind us, because it seems as though Matibedi had been trying to silence General Ntantla Mkhwanazi. Why is that the case? There's a defamation battle that's ongoing, and it seems Matibedi doesn't want Ntantla Mkhwanazi to be speaking about him as well. Talk to us through that case and where we are with that.
Well, indeed, he took him. Mkhwanazi took Matibedi to the Durban High Court for a defamation case, saying that he said things that were not pleasing about him in the media space. And then Mkhwanazi then approached the court. The Durban High Court has already ruled on the matter that no, Matibedi here is to blame or is at fault and must apologize. Use the very same media to apologize to Mkhwanazi about the remarks he made. But it's seemingly he's not backing down from the claims he made. That's why he then appealed the matter again, but it's yet to be heard at the very same Durban High Court. But the Tuesday court interdict was when police informed him that they will be raiding his premises, and then he filed papers to stop them. But on Tuesday, the court then made a ruling that his application lacks urgency, and then it ordered that he pays the cost to SAPS as well. So they've been at back and forth with Mkhwanazi, but this dates years back. And also, Mathibedi also issued a statement recently on Facebook saying that he's been targeted. He says someone who was a police officer who is now also in the security industry like him is using his connections in the SAPS, to play dirty by him, if I may. He says that this person approached him on business basis saying that he wants to work with him, but he then said to the person, well, I cannot work with you. The person, then he says the very same person is the one who gives him a tips or heads up, if I may, to say, well, watch out for this. He says that when the police raided his premises recently, that person actually knew, and that he also knew about that. So he was putting the blame on that particular individual who he has not identified.
Yeah.
But also, another intriguing thing was that he says that this has been going for years, and in fact, pointed to it as harassment by the men and women in blue. You'd recall that some years back, if I'm not mistaken, 4 years ago, 2019, where a group of armed TRT officers entered his premises, the very same premises in Durban, demanding that one of the security guards that they found at the gate, they demanded the firearm of that security guard because they wanted to raid the premises. But that security officer is seen in that footage really resisting to give those police officers. One of the sergeants can be heard saying to him, "We are police officers. We are police officers." And then they later managed to take his firearm and then continue with their raid. And that video has recently resurfaced on social media, but that alone speak to the differences that he's had with the police, but he's been saying that he's being targeted.
And then I must ask, Nhlanhla, can this be linked to the ongoing investigations with the Madlanga Commission at all, or is Mathibedi a completely separate story to this?
Well, at this point, Homozo, only SAPS can confirm, but for now, though, the confirmation from SAPS, they are raising concerns about the amount of guns that they are finding at deadly crime scenes. You'd recall KwaZulu-Natal has a lot of those shootouts between police, shootout between suspected criminals or gang-related fights. They say the firearms that they find on those scenes, Homozo, are raising concern because they, as SAPS, those serial numbers could have been scratched off. They can tell that these firearms belong either to police officers or to security companies. Hence, they are now doing this inspection check. With Kelvin Mathibedi's company, regarded one of the big companies, I mean, you can only imagine, Homozo, if a company has over 800 firearms, that's an armory, a very serious armory. So they're saying that from that particular security company, they'll be checking all security companies. They are saying that they've been doing it internally as SAPS as well to try and piece as to where these firearms coming from. For an example, with Kelvin Mathibedi's one, out of the 850 on paper, they only say they have 815 with them. They did tell SAPS that 11 firearms were taken from them by the Inanda SAPS due to some ongoing investigation. Then if that's the case, Homozo, one would wonder to say, where are the other 19 firearms in this regard? So that's that's currently what's happening now with SAPS. Where are the other over 20 rather? So provincial police spokesperson Colonel Nechiwunda says all SAPS is trying to do is to ensure that they are able to point to someone or somewhere in regards to the use of illegal guns, which clearly, according to SAPS, appears to have been stolen from legit people, be it security companies or SAPS.
All right, Nhlanhla Mabaso, let's leave it there. He's EWN's KZN correspondent, talking us through that story about security mogul Kelvin Mathibedi. Over 800 firearms found on his property. And it's an interesting story because he's been having a back and forth with KZN Police Commissioner General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi. They've had a legal battle, and I do think that there's lots more that we can expect from that story.
Let's walk the talk.
702.
All right, so the city of Cape Town says that nearly 2,600 animals have been vaccinated for foot and mouth disease across the metro. The Western Cape Agriculture Department started the rollout of vaccines to areas that include Mfuleni, Delft, Khayelitsha, Nyanga, Philippi East, and Denun. And for that conversation, we've got EWN reporter Carlo Peterson. He's been following that closely. Carlo, it seems that there's a clear, significant progress that's being made here with the vaccination of animals in Cape Town.
Good afternoon, Khomotso. Yes, so the city of Cape Town says it's continuing to play an active role in its efforts to contain the foot and mouth disease outbreak affecting parts of the metro and surrounding areas. They're saying the disaster coordinating team was activated back in mid-February, shortly after the president declared foot and mouth disease a national disaster. And since then, officials have been meeting weekly and working quite closely with the provincial authorities and neighboring municipalities to make sure everyone is on the same page. Now, one of the key focus areas over the past month has been supporting vaccination efforts, particularly among small-scale and informal farmers. What the city has been doing is providing law enforcement officers and traffic officials, metro police, to help escort those veterinary teams into several communities, like you mentioned, the Mfuleni, Delft, Khayelitsha, Philippi East, Denun, and Makassar. And these escorts have helped ensure the safe and successful vaccination of nearly 2,600 animals, which are allowing vets to focus on their work while officials manage the safety and access on the ground.
And do we know how long the vaccination drive is going to be going for? I know that there's been 100,000 or more than 100,000 vaccine doses that have been, sent to the Western Cape. So do we know how long this process is expected to run for?
I don't know how long it's going to be run in the province, but we do know nationally the aim is, of course, to reach herd immunity by December this year. We know that the Minister of Agriculture, John Perlman, recently confirmed that the South African government will cover the cost of vaccinating the entire national herd, and that means that there will be no cost for farmers for vaccines administered as part of the national response to outbreaks.
All right, Carlo Peterson, let's leave it there. He's the EWN reporter in Cape Town. He's been watching this story closely. 2,600 animals have been vaccinated for foot and mouth disease across the metro. Of course, that is still, so to speak, a drop in the ocean, because we did hear that about 100,000 vaccines have been sent to, or vaccine doses, I should say, sent to the Western Cape. But there does seem to be a clear effort to do this. I wonder, how long this process is going to take. Of course, this is part of the efforts that we've heard Agriculture Minister John Perlman speaking about. All right, it's 3:30 on the dot. It's time now for Eyewitness News headlines with Zinki Sachiro. Good afternoon.
Thanks, Khomotso. Good afternoon. We start with news just in. The National Consumer Commission has recalled certain Toyota Land Cruisers LC300 vehicles. The recall affects more than 1,000 vehicles sold between the 8th of January last year and the 16th of January this year. We'll have more on the story in our later bulletins. The Madlanga Commission of Inquiry has heard evidence on how Gauteng cop Sergeant Fani Ngosi tried to intervene in an invoice dispute between the Tshwane municipality and a service provider. This despite the fact that Ngosi had no official stake in the company, nor was he employed by the Metro. The incident is part of a long list of questions Ngosi is being asked about in relation to his relationship with some senior officials at the capital. Thabiso Koba has more.
In March last year, Tshwane Metro Police Deputy Chief Umashi Dlamini messaged Sergeant Fani Ngosi about a service provider who was complaining about their invoices not being paid by the Tshwane municipality. Ngosi then forwarded the messages to his friend, Tshwane's Chief Financial Officer, Gareth Mnisi. There would be a number of back and forth messages between the three men, with Ngosi acting as an intermediary between the two senior officials.
What business of yours was it to start sorting out disputes between the city and its supplier?
I was only helping the CFO with the frustration that the service provider was threatening to take the city to court. So As a result, the CFO was getting frustrated. Now, as my friend, I'm getting worried. My friend, now the route is going to be long.
The service provider in question was Gubi's Security Services, believed to be linked to taxi boss Joe Sibanyoni. WhatsApp messages before the Madlanga Commission show Sergeant Kosi and Sibanyoni are close. Thabiso Kuba, Eyewitness News.
Police have flagged few discrepancies while conducting a firearm compliance inspection at one of security boss Calvin Matibedi's business premises in KwaZulu-Natal. They are querying the number of firearms found on the property against what they are licensed to have. The inspection comes after Matibedi lost a court challenge yesterday to halt the inspection. KZN Police Commissioner Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi recently took Matibedi to court over defamation. Matibedi is accused the provincial commissioner of using the police to settle personal scores, a case he lost with the court ordering him to retract the statements and pay for Mkhwanazi's legal costs. Ndlandla Mabaso has more.
Police say this operation is to ensure that the over 800 firearms owned by the Kelvin and Family Security Company are legal and accounted for. However, they say this operation has revealed a few issues with the firearm records. Police spokesperson Robert Nechiunda explains.
The person who's responsible is the owner of the company, but he appointed a person to be in charge of the firearms on his behalf. So that person is telling us that the company has got 815 firearms in their books, in their safes. That for now does not correspond with the record that we have as the police, because our records indicate that this company should be having at least over 850 firearms.
Nechiunda says this operation will soon target other security businesses as police ensure that security companies are not flaunting the Firearms Control Act. Nhlanhla Mabaso, Eyewitness News, Durban.
And the ANC has emphasized its upcoming March on Human Rights Day is not an attack on government, but rather a reminder that South Africa is still far from achieving its goal of equality. The party has announced that it's preparing to embark on what it calls the People's March in Johannesburg on Saturday. Various speakers will reflect on both government's achievements and its shortcomings since the dawn of democracy. ANC Secretary General Fikile Mbalula says the march is intended to defend South Africa's hard-earned democracy.
On the 21st of March, the people of this country will rise not in disorder, but in disciplined formation, not in anger, but in purposeful resolve, not in fragmentation, but in unity of a nation that understands both its history and its power. This is a march that carries the voice of the workers, the hopes of the youth, the resilience of women, and the aspirations of communities across the length and breadth of our country.
And in your weather, Gauteng can expect a partly cloudy Friday with isolated showers and thunder showers. Temperatures will drop to lows of between 14 and 16 degrees and peak at highs of between 27 and 28.
Roadworks slowing down traffic in Edenville on Modderfontein Road between Main Road and the N3 in Sandton. Slow-moving traffic. This is on Greyston Drive between Rivonia Road and Catherine, and in Brakpan. Roadworks causing delays on the N17 eastbound approaching Carnival City.
The top story in EWN. The National Consumer Commission has recalled certain Toyota Land Cruiser LC300 vehicles.
Clement Maniatella.
Weekday mornings,
9 to 12.
9 to 12.
What do you still want to do? There's a whole lot that I want to do in my life. I haven't stopped. Number one, I promised myself that I will start directing by the age of 50. But instead of directing the age of 50, I started dancing.
Started dancing at 50?
Yeah, because I was celebrating. And when the clock went to midnight, and I was 50, and I told myself, every Friday, I am going to dance. Yeah. I called it Friday Moves on Instagram, and I danced throughout the year. That's what I wanted to do, because guess what, Clement? There's a whole lot of people that were in Barra with me at the same time with my mother when I was born that are not here anymore. Yeah. So I'll rather enjoy this as much as I possibly can.
The legendary actor Kenneth Nkosi.
Clement Maniatella.
9 to 12 on 702.
On the go and your stomach suddenly not keeping up, that burn, bloating or reflux could be symptoms of an ulcer. Stress can make it feel even worse. Ulcernic offers a triple action relief by coating your stomach lining with a protective layer and works for up to 6 hours. No protection or no prescription needed, rather. Choose between suspension, tablets or effervescent tablets. Keep an eye on the shelf for Ulcernic's new packaging, a fresh new look outside, same trusted relief on the inside. Visit the Ulcernic Facebook page for more.
Using Scholar Transport comes with responsibilities. Every learner has a role to play in keeping themselves, their friends, and the driver safe. Board safely, enter the vehicle calmly, sit properly, and fasten your seatbelt at all times. Wait for a complete stop. Only enter or exit the vehicle once it has come to a full stop and move away from the road in an orderly and safe manner. Respect the driver. Do not distract the driver while the vehicle is in motion. The driver's full attention is needed to keep everyone safe. Good behavior saves lives. Your actions matter. Issued by the National Department of Transport.
Every day I'm hustling. It's our reality as business owners. And it's good to know that there's someone out there who takes care of the business that makes the business. Gotta love My Way Business Insurance. Saving big on premiums with 24/7 emergency services, plus My Business Assist with marketing, legal, and labor advice services.
Visit myway.co.za or dial 0860 64 64 64 and get a quote today. My Way is a licensed non-life insurer and FSP. T's, C's, and standard rates apply. My Way. Live your way.
Respiratory syncytial virus, or RSV, is a common virus that affects the airways and lungs, especially in babies and children. To find out more and learn about how you can keep your little ones safe, today, 7:02 Afternoons with Relebohile Mabocha is in conversation with pharmaceutical company Sanofi, keeping the health of your kids top of mind. They'll delve into symptoms, preventions, and awareness around RSV. So tune into 7:02 Conversations with Sanofi, together against RSV.
702. WhatsApp us on 072 702 1702.
Good afternoon. I think one thing about this entire Madlanga Commission and the inquest into the corruption of our system is that there are still members that are in Parliament, there are still ministers who are still in cahoots with those people who are pulling the strings. So I do believe that for us to get to the bottom of this, it might be very elusive because there are people who are there gathering information from Nkwananzi's gatherings, getting information from all these hearings, and they are covering up as they are like snakes in the grass, and they are unidentified. So I think even though they're still investigating it, there is a lot of interference that could be hampering the release of information or could be hampering how justice is being served. Thanks. This is Michael from East Rand.
Michael, that's so true. Thank you so much for your voice note. You know, for me, what's really concerning, and I think what's standing in the way, and I agree with you, what's standing in the way is that we actually don't know who's who in all of this, right? We're depending on testimony, and some people, I think, are lucky enough not to be outed, not to be exposed. Some people, they might not be exposed in this commission. And I think if you have been following the last couple of commissions, you know that with every commission, someone gets exposed. But there are people that I think are standing with bated breath, who are hoping and praying that they don't get named, who are part of this. And it doesn't help that the politicians themselves who may be involved, or that there are so many politicians who are involved, and we've got politicians in Parliament. For all we know, some of those in Parliament, and I'm not saying it's the case, but some of those in Parliament themselves might have links with some of these criminals, the so-called Big Five. Of course, we're talking about the idea of the Big Five and the fact that General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi yesterday said that Vusmuzi Cat Matlala, the alleged crime kingpin, he's not in the Big Five. He said he's a non-starter. And I've been saying that that's really concerning, because then who is in this Big Five and just how dangerous are those people?
EWN Sport.
It's time for EWN Sport with Tolegele Mganga. Tolegele, good afternoon.
Afternoon, Khomotso. And Orlando Pirates shot-stopper Sipho Chain was a surprise omission from Bafana Bafana squad. That's for their back-to-back friendlies against Panama later this month. He's one of 15 players who were axed from the preliminary squad, including Tapelo Morena, Ikrem Reyners, and Mohaung Kota. In Chain's place, Kukune United Ronaldo Linier is called up, and Hugo Bruch has discussed his thinking when it comes to the goalkeeper group.
Liner is a very good goalkeeper, so I saw his performances with Sekukune. So then you think about him. Secondly, as you know, we have all goalkeepers of 30 and more, so that means that we have to look at the future. Okay, I know Liner is not a young keeper, but we have to look for solutions. If something happens with Goss, with Sifo, with Tronman, that we have something to back up. That's also a reason why Liner is with us.
CAF Executive Committee member Augustine Senghor has called for football to fight against injustice after Senegal was stripped of their AFCON title following an appeal by the Moroccan Football Association. Speaking to BBC's World Service, Senghor added that football is fair play and should be played on the field and not in the offices, as he labelled CAF's decision as unacceptable. As for President Patrice Motsepe, he's defended CAF's appeal board's decision to award the title to Morocco, but conceded that African football remains plagued by trust issues and questions over its integrity.
The important thing of what happened on that final match is it undermines the good work that CAF has done over many, many years to ensure that there's integrity, that there's respect, that there's ethics, as well as credibility of the results of our football matches. Those incidences exposes the work that we are still dealing with concerning the suspicion and distrust. It's a legacy issue.
Galatasaray forward Victor Osimhen broke his arm while Noah Lang is set to undergo surgery on his thumb following the UEFA Champions League clash with Liverpool last night. The Reds' 4-0 win in the second leg of the last 16 took them through 4-1 on aggregate as Arne Slot's side set up a quarter-final against reigning champions PSG.
Yeah, if you go to the latter stages of the Champions League, you know one thing for sure, that you're going to face Paris Saint-Germain, because it's an incredible team. We've experienced that last season when we faced them away from home. Very, very, very difficult game. And here at Anfield, we played... I said tonight, a perfect game. Here at Anfield, we played also a fantastic game. I've said a lot of times how great of a match that was. The best game I've managed in my career. Maybe not in result, but how football should be played. Both teams just playing football, just wanting to enjoy the fans, to entertain the fans.
And Charles Hole III alongside Bryson DeChambeau share a one-shot lead over Brandon Grace and Sergio Garcia. That's after the opening round of Live Golf action at Steyn City. South Africa's Live Golf team Southern Guards GC lead the team leaderboard by one shot over Smash GC at 18 under. Tolagile Mganga, Eyewitness News Sport.
EWN Traffic.
This EWN Traffic is brought to you by South African Airways. See just how far you can go with them. Book at flysaa.com now. Karabo Jali, how are the roads looking?
Well, at this stage, if you're heading into Eldorado Park coming in from Netrina, there's an accident scene on the N1 southbound. This is after the Golden Highway, causing heavy delays all the way from the Deep Kloof interchange in Sandton. Slow-moving traffic on Grayston Drive between Rivonia Road and Catherine Street in Brakpan. Roadwork still causing some delays on the N17 eastbound approaching Carnival City. And in Edenvale, roadworks also slowing down traffic on Morafontein Road between Main and the N3. If you come across any other traffic issues, kindly WhatsApp us on 072-702-1702.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app.
This is what progress sounds like. At South African Airways, we've added more aircraft to the runway, increased our flights from just over 1,000 in 2021 to over 24,000 last year. And we continue to add more destinations and routes. It's steady progress over time. We know there's still work to do, but every day we're building something stronger. An airline that shares the resilience of the country it carries. South African Airways. Book your next flight at flysaa.com today.
You're now listening to 702 Afternoon Drive with John Perlman. Brought to you by Telkom Business. Possible begins here. Let's walk the talk.
702.
Welcome back. This is 702 Afternoon Drive. My name is Khomotso Modisi. I'm in for John Perlman this afternoon. It is 15 minutes before 4. And we've been talking about the revelations that have been made at the ad hoc committee yesterday by General Madlanga Mkhwanazi. And he was the last witness to testify at the ad hoc committee. So that means that process is almost at its very end. What we're going to see now is that the parliamentarians and the members of that committee must come together. They must put the information and the testimonies that they've heard together and then come to some sort of a decision. But I've been speaking about how it was so interesting for me to hear from General Madlanga Mkhwanazi that Vusmuzi Ket Matala is basically, in the words of our producer, Rufuwe, he is an ice boy in all of this. He's not even, he's what people would call a small boy or amanzamanga, I think that's the term that gets used, which basically just means, he's not who we think he is. There are bigger people, there's bigger fish in all of this. And I found that to be rather interesting because we've been moving with the understanding that Vusmuzi Ket Matala is among the kingpins. He gets referred to as alleged crime kingpin, alleged, a crime boss. And the fact that he, in the words of General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi is a non-starter for me is really scary, because it means that the real people in the Big Five must be hectic human beings, especially because Madlanga is accused of some really horrible crimes. This is torture. I mean, did you see the videos of Jeribo Shoga? That's the businessman, and he's a businessman, a farmer. There's visuals from the show. I think it was Checkpoint. Was it Checkpoint or Cutting Edge? I think, where he was shown kidnapped, being beaten, being assaulted, and you're saying the man who's allegedly behind all of that is a non-starter? I mean, that's insane. Tholakele, good afternoon. Do you think that we're ever going to get to the real people here, like the actual kingpin? And if Madlanga is a non-starter, what do you think the guy at the top of the Big Five is?
I think it's probably someone that is well-moneyed and probably someone that we see in the news every day. But because they look so innocent and they're good for business, we're like, no, it's fine. We don't need to reveal it. I think one thing these commissions and these parliamentary sittings have just revealed to us, there are no good people. In all of this, there are no good people. Every little, the theories, you'd be like, that's such a dumb theory, doesn't make sense.
Yes.
Yeah, it does make sense. Let's just accept that, especially when it's on that specific Twitter account, and you'd be like, there's no way. And then 3 months later, it's revealed in a commission, you're like, how does he know that? And I think the mere fact that that specific account has the information just shows you that they're willing to push one person to be the face of this operation to protect the bigger fish that are involved in the chaos behind the scenes.
And you think Madlanga's that guy?
Lena, he likes the attention. That's the problem. I think a lot of these moneyed men who involved in all of these things, if you guys just stayed off social media,
yes,
none of us would be talking about you.
We wouldn't even know about you, right? Yeah, look, I do think that there'll always be the fall guy, the guy that it's easy to pin it on them, and they'll spend a couple of years behind bars, but the real people behind all of the crime we'll never get to know. But that is really scary for me, and it's rather concerning, because it means that these commission processes, right, are not worth the money that we're spending on them.
How many have we had?
Yeah.
And let's be honest, how many people get arrested? Yes, it's nice to know the gossip, but where does it take us after all of this is done?
Yeah, I'm taking your calls 011-883-0702, 072-702-1702. Do you think we'll ever get to the bottom of it all? Or do you think we're just wasting our time? I know many of us feel this is fantastic. We are, I'm one of the people that keep saying we would have never known just how deep-seated the crime problem in this country is if we didn't have July the 6th. But my fear now is even July the 6th won't give us the real people behind the crime problem. And sure, let's say Etiquette Madlanga is a non-starter. Let's say he's a ice boy. What's another term that's been used? Let's say he's really just desperate to get into the Big Five, but he's not even that big. There'll always be another Madlanga, even once he goes to prison. And that, for me, is what we should be rather concerned about. Does this mean the crime problem will go away at the end of this process? I'm not so sure.
702 Podcast
on PrimeMediaPlus.com.
All right, so South Africa is really, really proud. And this is following the win by the Blitzboks, 2025-2026 World Series winners. And quite frankly, there's been conversation about how the Blitzboks, or the Sevens, I should say, because it's a tongue twister for me, Blitzboks, the Sevens, I should say, have just been returned to glory, or the glory has been restored. And I think it's so beautiful to witness. And that's why we thought of speaking to the coach, Philip Snyman, who joins us on the line. Coach, good afternoon. Thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. Yeah, nice to be back home, and obviously a warm welcome, and thank you also from your side for the support and giving me a call today.
Yes, so many people have been speaking about the phenomenal work that you've done with the Sevens, and just how you've been able to, to make this turnaround. So just speak to me about that. What does it take to get us to this world championship title?
Yes, to be honest, it's a team effort. It's not myself. There's a big management and a lot of senior players and the juniors, everybody buying into the plan. And I think that's the most important thing is to create a plan. And a plan is only successful if the players execute it and believe in the plan. So I think that for me is a standout from the season and also the consistency. So really happy and I think well deserved for the players.
Yeah. And how different is it getting the country to rally behind the Sevens compared to the Boks, for example? You know, I mean, the support is very different. I'm sure you've seen it. You've been a Blitzbok yourself. How different it is getting the country to support the Sevens as we need to be?
Yes, I think obviously if you do well in Cape Town, that sets the tone for the rest of the year, and then you have a lot of support on your side. But to be frank honest, we have massive support. Obviously in the ups and downs, in the downs, maybe a little bit harsher words, but then I think we're blessed with very, very great support throughout in SA and globally also. So yeah, I think we must give a lot of credit to South Africa and all the fans that's supporting us all the way.
Yeah, and how's it been for the players? I mean, you've been leading quite a team, you know, and I think you've done some really impressive work. How have the players been taking this win?
Yeah, thank you for the kind words, and yeah, they really enjoy the win. They put in a lot of hard work, especially in the off season, and also on the off-field stuff, doing the small things right again, and to make sure everything is in place. And I think that's the beauty of it. We set standards in the beginning of the season, and the guys and the players lived up to the standards. So then it's great to get the reward if you live and do every day, you do your best, and we have the competitive excellence inside the squad. I think so well deserved from the players, and I'm really happy for them.
Yeah, I mean, even though we're celebrating this win and we're incredibly proud of you, you know, the words that the job is only half done are used quite a bit. So in terms of the work that needs to be done for the Sevens, what's on the cards regarding that?
Yes, I think we're fortunate now because we won the overall league. We number one, and we're automatically qualified for next season. Where all the teams will go into the grand finale now of 3 tournaments, and then there's also 4 teams joining us, so we'll be 12 teams in total, starting from scratch, and then you need to earn a spot to play in the World Series again. But luckily for us, the number 1 seed team get automatic qualification, so I think that for us is a big plus. Obviously, I think we'll still be able to qualify with our players and the way we play at the moment, but you don't want to go into a tournament with pressure like that. Anything can happen on the Sevens field, as you know. So now for us, it's all preparing for Hong Kong. Big goal of us, we've never won Hong Kong before, so we're going to shift our focus all to Hong Kong and make sure we're 100% prepared and get back to zero, and hopefully we can turn the cards this year.
Yeah, and what's it going to take to do that? Have you figured out what's it going to take to turn the cards?
I think it started in the beginning of the season already, and I said to the guys, winning becomes a habit, and now winning 4 tournaments in the season so far and 3 back-to-backs now, I think is a great achievement, and they're hungry to get more. So I think in the squad, the competitiveness in the squad, every player is pushing because, as you know, we've rotated quite a few players this season. We gave 6 new players caps, and yeah, there's a lot of competitiveness inside the team. So that will push the training sessions to be of higher standards, and will push every guy to make sure they make the team. So I think we'll be ready when Hong Kong comes.
Yeah, and a question that many of us who watch from time to time have, and one that really has been on my mind, is how difficult is it for players to move from Sevens rugby to 12s? How's that transition, and how does it work, or even moving from 12s to 7s?
Yeah, I think it is a challenging obstacle. I did it myself, and a lot of guys, Werner Cox, Abelu Senat, Lakwaga Smith, So I think that's also where we see ourselves. Yes, we want to create a platform to guys that want to become seasoned campaigners like yourself and David, MP Visser, but then also young guys coming through and want to play for the 15-man side, for the Springboks or for a URC team. We want to create that platform, and I think the skill set and the work ethic that they learn from Sevens is that they can only benefit from it, and that's exactly where we fit in. We want to be part of the supply chain in SA Rugby, and I think at this point we're doing a good job, and hopefully we can get a couple of more players through the ranks.
All right, let's leave it there, Coach Philip Snyman. Thank you so much for your time. And I think I should let you know that we are all rallying behind you. The country is supporting you, and we are incredibly proud of your work. All right, that is Philip Snyman, the coach for the Blitzboks. We are watching and we're supporting them. The Commonwealth Games are coming up, the Olympics are coming up, and I do think that the country must rally behind them. We must support them because they are a bunch of winners.
Africa Milani.
Weekday mornings,
4 to 6.
Gas fields and facilities both within Iran and with more broadly the region. Some attacks in Qatar, for example, reported this morning. That seems to be the new target point. And that's going to have an impact on you and I and how much money we pay for a litre of petrol come April.
Absolutely. And in this case, diesel powers the mining industry. Diesel powers the transport industry in particular. And this is going to have massive knock-on effects in terms
Dr. Dale McKinley, a political economist, reflecting on tensions and that war in the Middle East and the impact it's going to have on you and me, ultimately, and our pockets.
Africa Milani.
4 to 6 on 702.
Zandi Finga's Hive promo agency was growing fast, but the paperwork was catching up. What were you up against?
Challenges that were slowing down my growth was finding clients as well as organizing the promoter application.
But with Yep for online visibility and Zoho to manage her database, she has turned chaos into a well-honeyed hive.
Get Yep by Telkom Business from 249 Rand per month and Zoho from only 1,260 Rand annually. Call 10213 or click telkom.co.za. T's and C's apply. Telkom Business. Possible begins here.
What do you consider amazing? At Lexus, we believe it's experiencing next, now. The Lexus NX elevates every journey with confidence, sophistication. Built for ambitious drivers, modern lifestyles, and families with tomorrow in mind. From its striking design to its efficient hybrid performance, this premium SUV delivers what's next, today. Book a test drive at your nearest Lexus dealership. Because next is now. Lexus. Experience amazing. T's and C's apply.
Switching was so quick and easy. I'm happy with the premium that I'm paying now.
Outsurance business insurance clients know that it pays to switch. And did you know you could get a guaranteed premium for 12 months even if you claim? For electrical, tradesman services, and all other businesses. Get a quote today and see why it pays to switch to Outsurance Business Insurance. Visit outsurance.co.za or call 08600 60,000 today. Licensed insurer and FSP. TCs and information online. Driving the conversation on 702 Afternoon Drive with John Perlman. Powered by Telkom Business. Possible begins here.
702 Podcast
on primemediaplus.com.
It is 7:02 Afternoon Drive. My name is Komatsa Modisi. I'm in for John Perlman this afternoon. Thank you so much for tuning in. It's a very busy news day. I see on the TV channels a lot is flashing in terms of breaking news. ENCA going with Sergeant Fani Nkosi implicating EFF leader Julius Malema. That's in alleged tender fraud. And they say that messages that talk about Malema's company have been read or are being probed or spoken about at the commission. And then, of course, there's the recall for the Toyota Land Cruisers. These are vehicles sold between 8 January 2025 and 16 January 2026, which is really unfortunate because I know how the Land Cruiser is known to be a rather reliable car, and there's a number of Land Cruisers on our roads. So it is a busy day. I'm hoping to explore that Madlanga Commission breaking news story in the next hour. For now, though, it is 4 p.m. Time for Eyewitness News.
This is EWN.
Malema named at Madlanga Commission over 20 tenders and over 1,000 Toyota LC300s recalled. Good afternoon, I'm Zingisa Chirwa. The name of EFF leader Julius Malema has come up as being possibly involved in tender manipulation at the Tshwane municipality at the Madlanga Commission this afternoon. This relates to a 2024 tender by the Tshwane Metro Police Department, which wanted companies to guard some of the city's crucial infrastructure. Gauteng Cop Sergeant Faningosi has been testifying at the Commission over his relationship with the Metro's senior officials and political leaders. Thabiso Goba reports.
In March last year, TMPD Deputy Chief Umashi Dlamini messaged Sergeant Faninkosi a list of 7 companies. In the WhatsApp message, Dlamini says the companies were given to him by people representing the EFF and CIC Juju. While Nkosi says he doesn't know who Dlamini was referring to, Juju is the nickname for EFF leader Julius Malema and is sometimes referred to as the CIC by his party.
They gave him these 7 companies. Then they further said to him, these companies belong to CIC Juju. And then they further elaborated that the same companies were also given to the CFO.
Nkosi says he forwarded the list of companies to the Chief Financial Officer, Gareth Mnisi. At this stage, it is still unclear whether the 7 companies were awarded the security tender. Thabiso Goba, Eyewitness News.
The chairpersons of Parliament's security cluster committees have warned against prolonging the deployment of the army to help fight crime. They've called on authorities to also focus on the socio-economic ills that continue to plague communities as part of a long-term strategy to deal with crime. The chairpersons were briefing the media on Parliament's oversight on crime, defence and national security matters. Babalondenze reports.
It's been more than a month since President Cyril Ramaphosa announced the deployment of soldiers to assist in the fight against crime in various provinces. He said their role would be that of a force multiplier and not a permanent arrangement. Police Committee Chairperson Ian Cameron says the deployment may only help in the short to medium term.
I must, however, say it very clearly, that a military deployment is not a long-term solution.
Portfolio Committee on Defense Chairperson Dakota Legwete says they want a permanent solution.
We want the army to come in to stabilize, but after that, as we are stabilizing, SARS must be in.
The chairpersons are confident the collaboration between the army and the police can succeed if they work together and remove kingpins, especially in illegal mining and organized crime. Babalondenze, Eyewitness News, Parliament.
The South African National Taxi Council has strongly condemned a surge in taxi-related violence in Cape Town. The latest violence includes 2 fatal shootings in Delft. A rank master and a woman were shot dead near the Palm taxi rank on Monday evening, just days after a shooting at the Voorbrug taxi rank resulted in 3 deaths. Carlo Peterson has more.
Santaco's Makusandile Tumana says violence cannot be allowed to define the taxi industry. He says the organization is trying to do its part by strengthening its Taxi Peace Ambassador program with 32 ambassadors appointed across the Western Cape.
We want to appeal to all our members to remain calm in this time of difficulties in the minibus industry. And our members must try to tolerate each other so that we can resolve all our challenges.
The Taxi Association umbrella body has called on industry leadership, operators, law enforcement and the public to work together towards peace. Carlo Peterson, Eyewitness News.
And the National Consumer Commission is urging consumers who own certain Land Cruiser LC300 vehicles to come forward. The Commission recalled the cars, citing damage to the transmission housing. The recall affects 1,846 vehicles sold between the 8th of January last year and 16th of January this year. Consumers are advised to take their vehicles to an authorized Toyota dealership for reprogramming of the transmission ECU, which will be carried out at no cost to the consumer. In your financials, gold is trading at $4,549.84 an ounce. The rand is 16.98 to the dollar, 22.58 to the pound, and 19.50 to the euro. Brent crude oils at $113 a barrel.
In Devlin, there's an accident seen on the N1 South. This is after the Golden Highway, causing heavy delays from the Deep Kloof interchange. In Brakpan, roadworks also causing delays. N17 eastbound approaching Carnival City.
In your sport, Ronaldo Linier named in Bafana Bafana's squad for Panama friendlies as Sipho Chain is dropped. Patrice Motsepe admits that CAF is struggling with trust issues following Morocco AFCON decision. And Charles Howell III leading the pack as Steyn City plays host to Live Golf's 5th leg.
Gauteng can expect a partly cloudy Friday tomorrow with isolated showers and thunder showers. Johannesburg drops to overnight lows of 14 degrees, rising to 27. Pretoria, a low of 16 and a high of 28. Vereeniging, 14 and 28 degrees. The top story in EWN this hour. The name of EFF leader Julius Malema has come up as being possibly involved in tender manipulation at the Tshwane municipality at the Madlanga Commission this afternoon.
EWN, in touch, in tune, and independent. For the latest, visit ewn.co.za or download the EWN app.
702.
Live
On the Prime Media Plus app.
DSTV channel 856
92.7
and 106 FM. Let's walk the talk.
Welcome back. It's 6 minutes past 4 right here on 702 Afternoon Drive. My name is Komatsa Modise. I'm in for John Perlman this afternoon. Thank you so much for tuning in. Quite a bit that we have to get through this hour. I do see that there's more breaking news on television. So let's start here. That first story that Eyewitness News had been leading with, it's the story of the EFF being implicated, or EFF leader, I should say, Julius Malema, being implicated at the Madlanga Commission. I'm hoping to get to that with Eyewitness News reporter Thabiso Koba. He's covering the Madlanga Commission for us, but also there's now another breaking news story regarding the Madlanga Commission, and it's the Tshwane MMC being placed on special leave after he was also implicated at the Madlanga Commission. So I'm hoping that Thabiso Koba will be able to paint that picture for us and just bring us into the loop. And then after that, we're going to be having a conversation around spiders. It's a conversation that we saw after I saw an article of a woman who had been bitten by a violent spider. And after that, she lived for about 11 days. She went about her life. She seemed perfectly fine. And then she died after 11 days. And I've been thinking, do you know when you should get medical attention after being bitten or having an encounter with a spider? I know that there's those spiders in our homes that we think, oh, this is harmless. But sometimes they just aren't harmless. So I'm hoping to have that chat at 20 past 4. And then in the final half hour, we're going to be having Your House, Your Home. We speak about recent data from APSA that highlights how more than 50% of new or first-time homeowners are actually single women. And I want to hear from you about that. When did you buy your first house? And if you are a single woman out there who's bought their house, what do you think of this latest data? What has pushed you to make that purchase? And why exactly are we seeing the data and the trends in terms of purchasing property moving in that direction? We're going to be speaking to Ash Muller, who's a content creator, award-winning journalist, and she's a property media professional. That is what we have in the next hour. I want to hear from you. The number to dial to join the conversation is 011 883 0702 072 702 1702.
702.
WhatsApp us on 072 702 1702.
Good afternoon, Komuzo. This is Kabelo from Pretoria. What fascinates me about what has been exposed is that how few the characters are. All in all, we are talking about less than 10 people. But now their network is so wide. There are meetings in Umhlanga, in KZN, there are meetings here in Joburg, and their influence is so deep. There are people dying all over, but the names are the same names that have been recirculated. So I really don't understand how could so few people be so influential.
Yep, of course, we're speaking about what's been happening really at the Madlanga Commission and the revelations that have been happening there. I think what fascinates me the most is the fact that clearly there's more people who had knowledge of all of this criminality that's happening. But it took one man, not a man, one man. And that is General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi to come out and actually speak about it. And only now are we hearing from people who are actually being compelled to testify about it at the Madlanga Commission, at the ad hoc committee. Only now are they then speaking about it. I mean, what if there was no Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi? We would never know. We'd never know just how bad things are. And I think that's really scary. All right, it's 10 minutes past 4.
EWN Traffic.
This EWN Traffic is brought to you by South African Airways. Get all-inclusive fares, your seat, your meal, and your baggage. It's all in. Book at flysaa.com. Karabo, good afternoon.
Afternoon, Khumza. At this stage in Devland, we're still dealing with that accident scene N1 South after the Golden Highway, causing about a 30-minute delay from the Deepkloof interchange. Alexandra heading towards Germiston, also about a 20-minute delay on the N3 southbound from Marlborough Drive to Linksfield Road. In Edenvale, roadworks slowing down traffic on Modderfontein Road between Main Road and the N3. In Brakpan, roadworks causing heavy delays on the N17 eastbound approaching Carnival City. And in Sandton, there's slow-moving traffic heading towards the M1 on Greyston Drive between Rivonia Road and Catherine. If you come across any other traffic issues, kindly WhatsApp us on 072-702-1702.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app.
This is what progress sounds like. At South African Airways, we've added more aircraft to the runway, increased our flights from just over 1,000 in 2021 to over 24,000 last year. And we continue to add more destinations and routes. It's steady progress over time. We know there's still work to do, but every day we're building something stronger. An airline that shares the resilience of the country it carries. South African Airways. Book your next flight at flysaa.com today.
Stay with 702 Afternoon Drive with John Perlman. Brought to you by Telkom Business. Possible begins here.
For more about 702,
go to primemediaplus.com.
Welcome back. This is 702 Afternoon Drive, 12 minutes past 4. So, lots has been happening at the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry. I mean, we currently have Sergeant Faninkosi who's testifying, and he's a cop who is allegedly the link or has acted as a link between alleged crime kingpins like Katiso KT Molefe and Vusmuzi Kat Matlala and powerful politicians, it seems, and powerful top cops. So that includes your Shadrack Sibia, General Shadrack Sibia. And Nkosi has been testifying for about 4 days at the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry. He's been giving explosive testimony. His testimony is important because it draws that link. And so far we have heard allegations, but we haven't heard, so to speak, from the horse's mouth, someone that had been acting between your senior police officers as well as some of those alleged crime kingpins. Now, there's a lot of breaking news that's been coming from the Madlanga Commission, and Thabiso Goba is going to help us through it. Thabiso, good afternoon. Thank you so much for your time. I want us to start with EFF leader Julius Malema. Is it correct to say that he's been implicated in tender fraud today by Sergeant Faninkosi?
Good afternoon, Fomoto. I mean, we do have to be careful here with our words. But what I think it is safe to say that his name has been dropped at the Madlanga Commission because, as you said, Fomoto, there are still a number of people that still need to come back and testify at the Madlanga Commission. But what we do understand is that the Tshwane Municipality Metro Police Department Deputy Chief of Police, Mr. Umashi Dlamini, there were WhatsApp chats, and Mr. Dlamini sent a list of 7 companies to Sergeant Faninkosi. These I understand to be companies that were preferred to be the winners of a security bid that was currently out by the Tshwane Metro Police Department. Now, this bid involved the guarding of some critical municipal infrastructure. So the list of 7 companies that Mr. Dlamini sent, he said that he got those companies from the EFF and from the CIC, Juju. Now, Faninkosi said he doesn't know who the CIC Juju is, but I think we can obviously glean that, he was referring to Julius Malema. So the reason that he sent those companies to Sergeant Faninkosi is because it has been established here at the Madlanga Commission that Sergeant Faninkosi has a very, very close relationship with the Chief Financial Officer, Mr. Gareth Mnisi at the Tshwane Municipality. So that list that he got that allegedly came from the EFF and from Julius Malema, he then forwarded that list to the Chief Financial Officer. And lastly, Khomotso, I do have to say, and this is very important, that as we currently stand, and I don't know whether they are going to get to it, whether today or tomorrow, is that it's still unclear whether those 7 companies did get that security tender.
Okay. All right. So I think then we can say he's been mentioned. EFF leader Judas Malema has been mentioned rather than implicated at this stage.
Semantics, yes.
Semantics. All right. And then speak us through the second breaking news story that's also come from the Commission. I see that Tshwane MMC, Kulufelo Morodi, has also been placed on special leave. What happened there?
Yes. So, and I think obviously, Khomoto, we know that at the Madlanga Commission, a lot of the focus has been on the Ekurhuleni Metro Police Department. But we do also have to remember that the terms of reference for the Madlanga Commission, it wasn't just the Ekurhuleni municipality, it was literally Ekurhuleni Metro Police Department, Tshwane Metro Police Department, and the Johannesburg Metro Police Department. So what we're seeing now is we're seeing that the Commission has taken a shift and focusing more on the Tshwane Metro or the Tshwane municipality. And the Action SA councillor, and also the MMC for Corporate and Shared Services, Ms. Kulufelo Morodi. So this morning there were WhatsApp messages that were shown that she sent an internal tender document to Sergeant Fanny Nkosi. And this internal document was very important, Khomoto, because it wasn't just, a normal tender document. It was a document that sort of outlined the bid specification for a number of tenders. It sort of was saying that these are the preferred bidders or the preferred figures that if you want to apply for this tender, you have to bid around this certain amount of money. So basically, she was allegedly giving Mr. Sergeant Fanny Nkosi inside information if he were to bid on these tenders. And I do also have to mention again, Khomoto, that so far at the Madlanga Commission, it hasn't been established yet whether that inside information on those land leasing tenders, whether Mr. Sergeant Nkosi or people linked to Sergeant Nkosi were eventually awarded those tenders. So anyways, the Action SA and the Tshwane Mayor, Nasipi Moya, she has placed Kulufelo Morodi on special leave. We know that she was an MMC, so she will be taking a step back on those duties as MMC for Corporate and Shared Services. And then Action SA, from a party political point of view, they've also initiated their own investigation into Kulufelo Morodi. So that's the current situation now.
Yeah. And Sergeant Fanny Nkosi's been on the witness stand for 4 days now. His testimony sounds explosive to me from the details that I've heard. Is it fair to describe it as such? And just how valuable is Sergeant Nkosi's testimony in all of this?
I think it's very fair to describe it as such, Khomoto. I think so far he's literally been one of the most pernicious witnesses that have appeared at the Madlanga Commission. And it's a bit funny because he, in terms of rank, he's a sergeant, he works in the Gauteng Office for Organized Crime. You'd imagine this wouldn't be someone who'd be a protagonist in sort of this crime underworld that we have in the country and also in the law enforcement sector. But it turns out this is someone who's very, very key in terms of how this entire operation operates, because what we've seen at the Madlanga Commission is that he acts as an intermediary. Now, whether this is to Katiso Keti Molefe or Vusimuzi Kat Matlala or numerous taxi bosses or people in the private sector industry, controversial businessmen, all these people were messaging him, and he was then forwarding these messages to the relevant people. So he'd get a message from Vusimuzi Kat Matlala, he forwards it to General Sibia, or in other cases, as we're speaking about Tshwane, he gets messages from people or service providers, and then he takes this message and he forwards it to the chief financial officer. So he's basically a middleman, or to borrow a phrase from the blacklist, sort of like a concierge of crime.
Yeah.
That's what we've seen, and it has been explosive. It's now on his fifth day, and we do expect that he is going to be coming back tomorrow. So that makes him 6 days of testifying.
Yeah. And Thabiso, just as a bit of a side note, this is something that's been bothering me, and I've been trying to make sense of it. Faninkosi has been using the family terms, so terms like brother and father, quite a bit to describe people. And I've been trying to figure out why. So I heard him referring to Etiquette Madlanga as his brother. He referred to someone else as his father. What can we make of these terms? Is he speaking about proximity and how well he knows these people? And what's been going on with that?
I think part of it, Homoto, is maybe an excuse to maybe justify why he is very close to these people. We've heard him describe a lot of people as father figures. He has a lot of father figures, but I think aside from that, he does have genuine. This is something even the evidence leader, Matthew Chaskelson, referred to, that when they were examining some of his WhatsApps, he does have some genuine relationships with some of these very controversial people. But then, unfortunately, the issue is that these relationships that he does have with these people, they don't necessarily end at a social level. We've heard testimony that he does share internal confidential documents with civilians, and these are people, again, he refers to as his brothers and or father figures. And even in the case of the Tshwane Chief Financial Officer, Mr. Garrett Nisi, they're friends, they go hiking together, they go on shooting range together, they drive together, they've known each other for a very long time. But then they also engage in issues that are internal to Tshwane municipality, where he's sending the vendor number for his brother, he's asking why is his brother not getting tenders, and they're sort of colluding to also try and get tenders for their preferred bidders. So there is a bit of justification in terms of that's why he refers to these people in sort of those endearing terms, calling them brothers and figures and father figures. But obviously, beneath it is a very compromised relationship by a senior police official with people who are obviously controversial or implicated in the crime underworld of this country.
All right, Thabiso Koba, let's leave it there. That's Thabiso. He's a EWN reporter, has been following the Madlanga Commission and helping us make sense of it all. The testimony that's currently being heard is that of Sergeant Faninkosi, and he's been implicating a number of people. We're also seeing that there's a lot of breaking news coming out from the Madlanga Commission, and I'm sure that we'll have more in the EWN bulletins.
Let's walk the talk.
702.
So here's a story that caught my attention. A 59-year-old Klerksdorp woman lost her life after being bitten by a spider. So she noticed a small mark on her ankle, red at the edges with a raised black ring, yellow center. She then sought medical attention, not legal attention. And after she saw a medical practitioner, she died, but not immediately, 11 days afterwards. And I do think that this is an interesting story. I mean, horribly, it's very sad, and my heart goes out to her family. Mariki Geerstein van Dijk was her name. And, when I read the story, I thought, how many times have you come across a spider in your house and you thought things, it's just fine, it's a little spider, it looks harmless, and you didn't seek medical attention, and then it got way more serious than you thought it was. And here to talk us through that is someone who knows a lot about nature and spiders, and that's Tim Neri. He's our resident conservationist, nature conservationist. Tim, good afternoon. Thank you so much for your time. It's always a pleasure speaking to you.
Good afternoon, and that's the word you always tell me you battle with.
Yes, conservationist.
Yeah, you did very well. You did very well.
Tim, I mean, it's a really sad story here that that's been written. It's in it's in News 24. It's actually in the U magazine, or the U part of News 24. And I think this got me thinking, how many times do we come across a spider? Sometimes it lands on your arm, sometimes on your leg, and you just disregard it and you think it was a little harmless spider, and then it becomes rather serious. And I've been wondering, when would you know that a spider bite is serious and you should get medical attention?
Okay, well, the first thing is that one's not going to argue the point, but we have no recorded deaths from spider bites in Southern Africa. Okay. So it's possibly not the spider that, unfortunately, the lady passed away from. It could have been an anaphylactic shock. It could have been that she had some pre-existing medical condition. And you can't, by looking at a bite, determine that it was a poor old violent spider. So, as an example, I, on my right hand, have got a rebuilt section, etc., that was as a result of a cytotoxic bite. Now, it could have been one of mostly 3 spiders in Gauteng at the time, but we don't know which one. And there are only 5 medically concerned or medically significant spiders in South Africa. And that's your sack spider, your button spider, which people like to call the black widow, the violent spider, those little wolf spiders who give you a mean little bite and leave a blister behind them afterwards, but nothing's really going to fall off. And then there are a couple of others that are sort of less significant. So this is not Australia where their red whatever it is comes along and they call it the one beer spider. You have time to drink a beer before you pass away. That's not what we've got. So invariably what happens with our spider bites tend to be cytotoxic, which means that it disturbs the cells or kills the cells off in the area. And it's a small amount of venom that goes in. Remember, these little guys are off hunting insects, etc., so they're generally not going to tackle a human. And what invariably happens is that you get the cytotoxic area, it might blister, you then scratch the blister, and you introduce additional pathogens, etc. You introduce additional issues into the bite wound. Now, normally these things, they might require debridement. So if this lady's ankle required surgical debridement, etc., which is where you actually cut away the rotten dead flesh, then as I say, there could have been another underlying cause. And that, I think, is what one's got to have a look at. There aren't basically anti-venoms, etc., for spiders. So they treat the bite topically. They have a look and see how is the bite reacting, how is the person reacting. Now remember that not everybody is allergic to bee stings. So for the first 18 years of my life, I worked with bees. We had 57 hives that we used to work with. And then suddenly along came one bee that hadn't wiped his bum properly, and he stung me, and I now carry a EpiPen.
Tim, I really wanted us to have more of a conversation about this, and I'm sure we will at another time. Tim Neri is our resident conservationist, and he's been talking us through this story. I mean, I think what's interesting there is that he's saying that we don't have any spider deaths that have been recorded in Southern Africa, which I think is really comforting for me to hear. However, this is on the back of that story by You Magazine, the passing of a woman, 59-year-old woman in Klerksdorp after she was bitten by a spider. I think it's going to be interesting in further conversations that we'll have about what could have caused the death and how we can avoid it.
EWN Traffic.
This EWN Traffic is brought to you by Outsurance. SMS out to 45142 now, and you could save on car insurance. If you don't, ask them for 500 Rand. Karabs, how are the roads looking?
Well, at this stage in Sunning Hill, bumper-to-bumper traffic on Witkoppen Road between Rivonia Road and Maxwell. In Devland, heading towards Eldorado Park, there's heavy delays on the Golden Highway. This is between the N1 and Union Avenue. Also, about a 20-minute delay in Alex heading towards Germiston. This is on the N3 southbound from Marlborough Drive to Linksfield Road. In Calvin, traffic sluggish approaching the intersection of Northway and Eastern Service Road. And in Brakpan, roadworks causing delays on the N17 eastbound approaching Carnival City. For the latest traffic update, you can also follow us on X at EWN Traffic.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app. The Outsurance pointsmen know that every car on the road carries a story. There's a car with a couple stealing glances at each other. In a week, their lives will change forever as they exchange their I-do's. The Outsurance pointsmen know it's not just a car in traffic, it's a love story on the move. Every story's different and every story matters. That's why the Outsurance pointsmen have been doing what they do since 2005 in proud partnership with 702. Outsurance is a licensed insurer and FSP. EWN Business.
It's time for EWN Business with Steve Wolvo. Stephen Curtis, good afternoon. Thank you so much for coming through. So, the Rand does look weaker on my side.
Yeah, no, so you're correct. So, you know, when your parents might say, don't worry, there's always something good and a silver lining? No. So the JSE All Share down 2.72% on the day. And this is gold prices have not quite fallen through the floor, but they're around $4,600. Now, bear in mind, a week ago, yesterday, in fact, there were bits where it was over $5,000. Platinum falling below $1,200. And then the root cause of all of this, Brent crude, $110 at the moment. So this is really the problem. Now, you might remember about 3 weeks ago, the JSE hit a record high at 129,000 points. Today, 110,619. Amazing how much money has basically been wiped off. Look, it'll all come back. That's the nature of investing. But still, financials down 0.58, industrials down 1.29, and then resources, obviously, 6.38. Zabanya bearing the brunt, down 11%. Pan-African Resources down 10. Implats, Northern, Valterra, all down between 8 and 10. And, you know, it goes on and on and on. Harmony Goldfields, the whole lot, they're down by about 6. There are some winners, of course. And if you would say the word Sasol, you'd be correct. They're up 4.71. There's a bigger winner, Tungela, in the coal space, up 7.13% on the day. Boxer doing all right, actually, up 3%. And then Discovery doing 2.18. And interestingly, We Buy Cars are up 1% as well. Exaro, they're up 1% today. The coal and sustainable power producers saying their revenue up by 3% for the financial year to the end of December. So there was a decline in global demand for coal last year through the financial year they're reporting on now. But I went to check. From what I can see, the conflict in Iran has pushed coal prices up by around 20%. The insurance and investment group Momentum, its headline earnings up by 8% in the next 6 months, in the 6 months to the end of December. Lots going on in the medical aid space. We'll speak to Jeanette Marais, their CEO, tonight. And Investec saying their headline earnings per share to the end of March will probably only rise by around 2% at the most. In the US, surprise, surprise, trading stocks down because of what's happening in the Middle East. The Dow Jones is down 0.5%. The Nasdaq's down 0.58%, and the S&P 500 is down 0.43. Looking at the gold price now, $4,640.99 an ounce. Platinum, $1,933.10. Brent crude, $110.54. And the rand to the dollar, it was above 17 at one point, but 16.93 now to the euro, 19.50 to the British pound, 22.62. There'll be no silver lining in an hour's time. Stephen Curtis, EWN Business.
Thank you so much, Steve Ovo. It is time now for Eyewitness News headlines with Zingi Sachirwa. Good afternoon. What's on the news, Zingi?
Thanks, Khomutso. Good afternoon. Tshwane MMC for Corporate and Shared Services, Khulufelo Morodi, has been placed on special leave with immediate effect. This after the Action SA councillor was implicated at the Madlanga Commission for allegedly sending internal tender documents to Gauteng Cop Sergeant Fani Ngosi. Morodi allegedly WhatsApped Ngosi a document showing bid specifications for land lease tenders. In a statement, the municipality says to protect its integrity, it has removed Morodi pending the outcome of a probe into the matter. Tabiso Goba reports.
WhatsApp messages before the Madlanga Commission show that on the 2nd of December 2024, Sergeant Fani Ngosi and Action SA Councillor Khulufelo Morodi were together celebrating her birthday. On the same day, Morodi sent Ngosi a message thanking him for making her birthday special. The message is then followed by an internal Tshwane municipality document which outlines the municipality's recommended specifications for a number of land lease tenders. Ngosi says he had no interest in the tenders.
We had a discussion about the land that were to be leased to the public. She then sent this to me that these are the kind of buildings that the city leased. So this one automatically, I think it was already been cancelled. It was on a public platform.
At the same time, Action SA has released a statement saying it will be initiating an investigation against all its members implicated at the commission. Tabiso Goba, Eyewitness News.
The family of a 19-year-old boy who was shot and killed at a spaza shop in Drift Sands in Cape Town says they are struggling to come to terms with his death. Lita Kovuza and a friend were attacked by alleged extortionists while buying food at a local spaza shop last month. His friend survived the shooting and was rushed to hospital. Drift Sands falls under the Mfuleni policing precinct, an area that has recorded several extortion-related shootings in recent months. Ntutu Zelonene visited the victim's family.
A small group of community members has gathered outside Lita Kovuza's home in Drifsands, singing and holding placards that read "Justice for Lita" in support of the grieving family. The 19-year-old was killed only a short distance from his home. It's been nearly a month since the attack, and his family says they still seek justice. Instead of answers, they say they have been re-traumatized by a video circulating on social media that appears to show his execution. His sister, Kanya Kovuza, says her brother was targeted.
It's very painful watching that video because Lita was a good boy, so it's painful to see him die like that, as if he did something bad to someone.
Police say they are following up on fresh leads. This after authorities shared surveillance footage of a person of interest linked to the case. Ndutuzela Nene, Eyewitness News in Drifsands.
The South African National Taxi Council has strongly condemned a surge in taxi-related violence in Cape Town. The latest violence includes 2 fatal shootings in Delft. A rank manager and a woman were shot dead near the Palm taxi rank on Monday evening, just days after a shooting at the Voorbrug taxi rank resulted in 3 deaths. Carlo Peterson has more.
Santaco's Makusandile Tumana says violence cannot be allowed to define the taxi industry. He says the organization is trying to do its part by strengthening its Taxi Peace Ambassador program with 32 ambassadors appointed across the Western Cape.
We want to appeal to all our members to remain calm in this time of difficulties in the minibus industry. And our members must try to tolerate each other so that we can resolve all our challenges.
The Taxi Association umbrella body has called on industry leadership, operators, law enforcement and the public to work together towards peace. Carlo Peterson, Eyewitness News.
And actor Kevin Spacey has agreed to an out-of-court settlement with the men who've accused him of sexual assault. The BBC is reporting that the upcoming trial, which was set for the High Court in London this year, has now been frozen following the settlement. The men allege the 66-year-old assaulted them between 2000 and 2013. No details of the settlement between Spacey and his accusers has been revealed. And in your weather, Gauteng can expect a partly cloudy Friday tomorrow with isolated showers and thundershowers expected. Temperatures will drop to lows of between 14 and 16 degrees and peak at highs of 27 and 28.
Sunning Hill, bumper-to-bumper traffic on Witkoppen Road between Rivonia Road and Maxwell Devland roadworks causing some delays on the Golden Highway between the N1 and East Street, and in the Joburg CBD heading towards Boyson's traffic pressure M1 South from Killarney Bench to the Crown Interchange.
The top story in EWN, Tshwane MMC for Corporate and Shared Services Khulufelo Morodi has been placed on special leave with immediate effect.
Bongani Bingwa, 702 Breakfast.
Weekday mornings, 6 to 9.
2 tiny little lives, born, joined at the abdomen, sharing vital organs. A medical team in a public hospital in Mangweng, Limpopo, led by one doctor, Nyawelenu Shifalaro. Doctor, take me through the complexity of the procedure.
They were joined at the abdomen, so they've got one liver, so that one liver we had to divide it. Also, there was the containing part of the heart, the cardiac chamber, a bit of the intestine.
What was your indication that this was a job well done?
If you divide them and they are alive and everyone now is living their own life, that's a success.
This happened at a public hospital. Isn't that a good news story, Shadi?
You put us on the map.
This country still has potential, my friends.
Bongani Bingwa, 6 to 9.
On 702.
Jill Scott is coming to SA. The 3-time Grammy award-winning singer and songwriter brings her To Whom This May Concern tour to Gauteng this November. Experience the power and the passion of the voice behind hits like Golden, Beautiful People, A Long Walk, and He Loves Me, live on stage with her full band for one night only on Saturday the 7th of November at Sunbet Arena, Times Square. Get your tickets at Ticketmaster now for a once-in-a-lifetime night of soul with Jill Scott in association with 702.
Meet Tato Makate, CMO of Koitech, proving that South African tech can take on the world. Tato, why was Telkom Business the right call for your team?
Bottom line was connectivity and ensuring that we have the right service provider.
With Telkom Business Fiber, Koitech seamlessly connects local innovations with international manufacturing.
Get Stream Connect Fiber from just 399 Rand per month. Call 10213 or click telkom.co.za. T's and C's apply. Telkom Business. Possible begins here.
The pain of losing a loved one is never easy. It will leave you feeling overwhelmed. At Clientele, we understand that burying loved ones with dignity truly matters. Our funeral plans pay out cash within just 24 hours, and you receive 200 Rand airtime when you claim to make those important calls. Plus, we cover up to 13 people on one plan. SMS funeral to 31586. That's 31586. Clientele Life is an authorized FSP and licensed life insurer. T's and C's online. Standard rates apply.
702.
WhatsApp us on 072 702 1702.
Afternoon, Komuzo. You see, I've got an issue with favoritism. So when Julius Malema's name is mentioned, and people now must be careful with how they use their words. Yet when Senzo Mchunu or Begitele is mentioned, it's okay. So what's there to be careful of? Yes, his name is being dropped in tender irregularities in Swane. So I don't see why that disclaimer was necessary for words to be used in a careful manner. This is double standards.
Thank you so much for that voice note. Yeah, of course, that's in response to Julius Malema and how his name was dropped at the Madlanga Commission. And I had asked our reporter, Thabiso Koba, whether it's correct to say he's been implicated. And it seems as though at this stage, his name is mentioned, but there hasn't been an actual allegation attached to it. That's my understanding. I stand to be corrected. You're right. We shouldn't have double standards at all. I do think we must be careful. Like, there must be a clear allegation that's being made to say, this person facilitated this tender or this person benefited from the tender. And I suppose that's where the sensitivity comes from. You give Senzo Mchunu as an example. That's a good example because with Mchunu, there are clear allegations attached to him. He's being accused of now, most recently, especially now with President Cyril Ramaphosa coming out to say that he did not okay the disbanding of the PKTT. Now we know that he's being accused of lying about that. We know that he's accused of having ties to the criminal underworld. We know that he's accused of being linked to alleged crime bosses. So there's clear allegations linked to him. I do agree with you, though, that we must be fair. There must be we must treat these allegations and politicians equally. I think it will be interesting to see. There should be more testimony around Malema that is clearer. What I find to be interesting is that yes, ENCA is saying he's been implicated. I don't see the same strap on Newsroom Africa. And what I usually do, what I try to do, especially when there are strong allegations that are made, I try to check with all media sources who are covering the same story to see if there's some sort of consensus. I haven't seen that yet. And maybe that's one of the reasons why I'm treading softly. But you're absolutely right. There must never be favoritism. Everyone is equal before the law.
EWN Sport.
It's time for EWN Sport with Tolengele Mganga. Good afternoon.
Afternoon, Khomodzo. And Hugo Bruce has backed Imo Ocon to handle the pressure after naming him in his 23-man Bafana squad. That's for the friendlies against Panama later this month. The big omission is Sipho Chain, who's been replaced by Skukune United's Ronaldo Lenier in the goalkeeping trio. As for Ocon, he earns the call-up after moving to German side Hannover 96 from Supersport United.
We followed already a long time Imo, but yeah, he had some injuries and he couldn't be with us. Don't underestimate the level of the second division in Germany. It's quite a high level and there are tough games to play. So when you're always in the team, that means that everybody's happy with you in the club. And when we are looking down these games and we are also satisfied, then you have to call him. And now it's up to him. It's up to him to prove that he is ready to be with Bafana.
Barcelona claimed a 7-2 victory over Newcastle United to reach the UEFA Champions League quarter-finals as they won 8-3 on aggregate. Robert Lewandowski and Rafinha scored twice as Eddie Howe's Magpies suffered a landslide last 16 second leg defeat.
in terms of how we play, it's a strange execution of the goals against us. I don't think psychologically you can say that we recovered from the moment at half-time. That's what it looked like to me. Because second half we certainly didn't have the same energy, and then when the game was effectively over, we didn't react well to that moment either, so it became a very, very difficult second half. And even changing to play lower and deeper and compact space didn't really help us in our efforts.
The Bulls have made several changes for Friday's clash against Cardiff in the United Rugby Championship, with Cameron Heinegor making his long-awaited comeback. The loose forward has been out of action for 9 months, and Johan Ackerman is hoping that he can deliver physicality when he comes off the bench.
Obviously great news to have Cameron back. I mean, obviously it was a tough time for him, to see the boys play, and he's not playing, so he's really excited to play, and we're confident. We did a lot of things now to prepare him, and I'm sure he's fully fit. He's done all the off-field stuff like testing and everything we could to make sure he's 100%, and he's looking well in training.
And the opening round of Live Golf has delivered spectacular action, with Bryson DeChambeau in a share of the lead alongside Charles Howell III. With more from day one at Steyn City, here's EWN Sports' Lennox Wasara.
The opening round at Live Golf delivered on the hype, with Southern Guards GC leading the way as Louis Oosthuizen, Charles Schwartzel, Dean Burmester and Brandon Grace capitalized on home advantage to take an early lead. On the individual leaderboard, Charles Howell III alongside Bryson DeChambeau share a one-shot lead over Brandon Grace and Sergio Garcia, while Charles Schwartzel sits 3 shots back despite battling through back spasms. Lennox Wasara, Eyewitness News Sport, Steyn City.
Tholakele Mganga, Eyewitness News Sport.
EWN Traffic.
This EWN Traffic is brought to you by South African Airways. See just how far you can go with them. Book at flysaa.com now. Karabojale, what's the traffic looking like?
Well, at this stage in Sunning Hill, bumper-to-bumper traffic on Witkoppen Road between Rivonia Road and Maxwell, while in Devland, this is heading into Eldorado Park. Accident scene N1 southbound after the Golden Highway, causing heavy delays all the way from the Deep Kloof interchange. Still in Devland, roadworks also causing delays on the Golden Highway between the N1 and East Street, while in the Joburg CBD traveling towards Boysens, there's traffic pressure M1 south between Killarney Bends and the Crown interchange. In Edenville, also slow-moving traffic on the R24 westbound from Edenville Road to the Kilulis interchange, driving through Alex. Heading towards Germiston, expect about a 20-minute delay on the N3 southbound from the Butler interchange to Linksfield Road. Edenville, also roadwork slowing down traffic, Modderfontein Road between Main Road and the N3. And finally, Brakpan roadworks causing some delays on the N17 eastbound approaching Carnival City. If you come across any other traffic issues, kindly WhatsApp us on 072-702-1702.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app.
This is what progress sounds like. At South African Airways, we've added more aircraft to the runway, increased our flights from just over 1,000 in 2021 to over 24,000 last year. And we continue to add more destinations and routes. It's steady progress over time. We know there's still work to do, but every day we're building something stronger. An airline that shares the resilience of the country it carries. South African Airways. Book your next flight at flysaa.com today.
702 Podcast
on primemediaplus.com.
Welcome back. This is 702 Afternoon Drive. My name is Khomotso Modise. I'm in for John Perlman this afternoon. Thank you so much for tuning in. It is 23 minutes before 5. So the other day, something happened to me. I was at church. I happened to be at church when a lady walked up to me, lovely older lady, a mama. She walked up to me and she said, "Hi, Khomotso, and she spoke to me with such, you can see that she knows me, and she said, "How am I?" And I said, I'm good, ma. I didn't really recognize her. And then she said, "Mama Ogai," asking where's my mom, right? And at that point I was like, okay, this person knows me, because I'm usually with my mom quite a bit. And then I had to say, no, she's not around, she's at her own church. And after that conversation, I walked away and I just said, I'll let her know that I saw you. But I didn't know who that lady was. I don't really remember her. I've been trying to remember if I know her. And I was sitting there thinking, what's a clever way to go about telling or getting the person's name without showing them that you don't know them? It happens a lot. I've seen it also in malls where I saw it last week in the mall where a lady, someone waved at this lady and the lady waved back, but you could see the confusion in her face. Like she looked like she didn't know the next person. I was thinking, what's a smart way of saying, of getting the person's name? What could I have done to get the mama's name? Or what's a polite way of asking, Hana Mama Umang, what's your name? Without coming across as rude. Because then it's like, Khomotso, you don't know me? Come on, Khomotso.
Yeah.
And they clearly know you and you don't know them. Karabo, has that happened to you?
A lot. It happens a lot. And with Mamzo, your Mamzo at church, maybe you could have asked somebody else and said, Kanakimang, who's that Mamzo there? And then maybe they'll give you a tip and then next time you'll call her by her name. But it happens a lot with me. Particularly here at work, funny enough. Yeah.
So people go, hi Karabo.
Hi Karabo. And I'll be like, who are you? Who's this? I don't know. And I always come up with nicknames. Or I'll just call them Mfetu or hi sister, to avoid it. And then later on, maybe if there's a colleague I trust, I'll be like, or that guy will go maintenance. This guy go maintenance.
Oh, the guy from maintenance is listening now.
Yeah, he greets me with a passion. He's like, hey, Karawa, how are you? He gives me this firm handshake. And I'm just
exactly who you're talking about.
And I'm like, just there, like, woo, man, it's been a few months now. You've been working here or years, and I still don't know his name.
I think I know who you're talking about too, but I'm not going to do that to you, okay? I hope I'll tell you after this.
It's not Tata Sam. I know Sam.
I thought you did Tata Sam.
No, it's not Sam.
Okay, so it's not a Tata Sam.
No,
it's someone else from maintenance. Okay, you need to find out. How do you go about that?
Honestly, I take my L. I ask you very nicely, Konje, when was the last time we saw each other? And then if that memory doesn't remind me of anything, I'll just keep quiet. And then if I see them chatting to someone else, I'll wait for them to like go somewhere else and be like, because it's the only way. If that instant memory doesn't come to mind, I'm going to have to ask someone else to be like, please just tell me who this person is.
Because you don't want to be rude.
Absolutely.
And say, Konje Umang. Like, who are...
When you say it like that, it just sounds like, my goodness, you think I'm so unimportant that you don't even bother remembering me.
So since I started making content on TikTok and Instagram, that happens to me a lot, right? But I forget that I make those videos, right? So I make them and then I continue with my life. And then people in the mall smile. And I'm like, and I smile, but I'm thinking, and then I remember that, maybe this person saw in the TikTok video or the Instagram video. That happens to me a lot. So I want to hear from you. How do you go about politely asking? Do you even ask the person who the person is and where you know them from? Or do you have clever ways of getting the person's name out of them? I know some people who do this, who go, hello, and they pretend like they said someone's name, right? I want to hear how you deal with that. The number to dial 011 883 0702 072 702 1702.
For more about 702,
go to primemediaplus.com.
So recent data from APSA has revealed that more than 50% of its first-time home buyers are single women. Standard Bank reports that women have made up 70% of its home loan clients over the past decade. And Livestone has also confirmed that single women are now purchasing more homes than single men and even couples. And I found that to be a rather interesting, statistic and numbers that are out. It seems that there's a shift in the property space. And I thought someone that can explain that to us and help us make sense of it all is Ash Miller, a property media professional and content creator. Ash, good afternoon. Thank you so much for your time.
For having me.
I mean, this data is interesting. I suppose my first question is, has this been a trend that's happened over time and developed over time? And have we seen this transition over time? Or is this out of nowhere that more single women are becoming first-time home buyers?
I definitely think it's something that's been a long time coming. Maybe not for someone who's not in real estate that you could see it so easily. But if you are in real estate and having these regular conversations, I mean, I chat often with Paul Stevens, who's the CEO of Just Property. They're a national real estate agency, and they've got a huge rental book of rental clients that then go become buyers in the market. And, just that qualifiable data, that stuff that isn't in the numbers, the conversations that the tenants have when they are doing that transition, has been saying this for some time. As well as when I chat to bond originators, Phoenix Bonds, they're a huge bond originator dealing with the exact same thing. And I had this conversation as well with Hannah Van Deventer from Phoenix Bonds, who also said that, women are coming super prepared, asking all the right questions and getting their ducks in a row to invest in real estate.
And does it speak to is it an affordability thing that more women happen to afford houses, or is it that more single women are prioritizing owning property?
So I definitely think the single women statistics the most fascinating for me, especially that they're even, outperforming the couples on this process. I think it's a shift in values. So women are not getting married when they turn 18, 20 and having babies and, moving into big houses. That kind of like life cycle is totally different now. A lot of women are working, and when they are investing in these properties, they're doing it with just a payslip. They're getting a bond of 105%, and they're doing it with a payslip. Some are building up small property portfolios, and they're buying smaller places, apartments. So it definitely seems to me like it's not, you'd buy a house with a couple of rooms if you were planning to, build family and have kids. It's definitely some sort of a security net. And that could be from, relationships or potentially losing a job, even just generally our economy. South Africa's unstable political climate and economy is enough to make anyone want to feel secure.
And I mean, what can we make of the fact that women seem more prepared, right? Because I think that this is a part of the stats that has ruffled a lot of feathers. I've been seeing the conversation on social media, many people taking it personally. What do we make of women being more prepared home buyers and the fact that they have their ducks in a row compared to their male counterparts?
That's a really good question. And again, just back to those conversations, when I wrote an article about this exact topic, I chatted long with Hannah van Deventer from Phoenix Bonds. And she said when women come with their, ready to do their bond application, they are so prepared. They are, their credit scores on order, they've done research, they've asked questions, their employment's stable, they've got this long-term mindset that, you can just see that they know they've kind of asked the questions and got to a certain point that by the time they pull the trigger on investing in property, the bond application process is pretty swift. It's not uncommon for it to have issues,
And in terms of the trends that we're expecting in the future, what's that looking like? Are we expecting to see more women to continue dominating this space? I find it also interesting that it's more women, not just compared to men, but compared to couples also. Is this expected to persist?
Yeah, look, I think it's great. I mean, I think any segment that's able to, invest in property, it's a wonderful thing. I mean, real estate is wealth creation. You can leverage against it. It's legacy. It's security. Real estate is so many things. And how amazing that these single females are getting these home loans and sometimes 105% home loans, and the barriers to entry are just completely removed. And some are even buying more than one property. So they're able to get, supplementary income and earn a rental off of an asset. And who in South Africa doesn't, look for supplementary income? It all helps.
All right, Ash Miller, property media professional, thank you so much for your time. She's been helping us make sense of that recent data that's come out from APSA about women, more than 50% of its first-time home buyers being single women. I find it interesting that she draws a link between these statistics and the age that women are getting married now, right? Because when women are getting married later in life. But also men are doing the same, right? But we're seeing women no longer getting married at 19, 20, 21. People are putting off marriage to their late 30s even. And I suppose the idea is, why should I wait to get married to buy my first property? If you're a woman who decided to buy your property before you got married, or you decided to buy as a single woman, I want to hear from you. What drove that decision? How did you go about doing it? And if you're in the property space, have you been seeing similar trends as well? What do you make of that? And there's a lot of data actually in the report that's come out around the difference between women home buyers, single women home buyers, and their male counterparts, as well as couples. Join the conversation. Get in touch with us at 011 883 0702 072 702 1702.
702 Afternoons
with Relebohile Mabota, 1 to 3 p.m.
Can we talk about if a
woman is pregnant or a person is sick, what are the exceptions that a person can break their fast? And does that also become iftar if you break your fast because of a medical issue or because you're pregnant?
From Islamic perspective, actually, for one to perform religious responsibilities, health is a condition. If you're not healthy, you don't have to fast. But if during the day, let's say you start fasting and somehow you meet a medical condition, you can break your fast. Obviously, that is a medical emergency. It's whatever your body needs. So it's not actually necessarily an iftar sort of a meal because it's an emergency situation.
Director at Nizamiye Mosque, Dr. Aydin Inal.
702 Afternoons.
With Relebohile Maboja.
Let's walk the talk.
This 23rd March, join Freedom Park and the National Heritage Council as we commemorate the Battle of Cuito-Cuanavale, a defining moment in South Africa's journey to freedom. Be part of a powerful day of reflection on resistance and liberation heritage, featuring a public lecture, wreath-laying ceremony, and messages of solidarity from African and international partners. Let's honor the courage, unity, and sacrifice that shaped our democracy. Freedom Park, Pretoria, the 23rd of March 2026. Be there, be part of the legacy.
Smart Steve from Momentum, hello.
Smart Steve, my daughter just turned 18, right? And now she's got a license and a boyfriend.
You're worried about her safety. With Momentum Safety Alert, she can access help 24/7.
Is that the emergency response version of Curry in a Hurry?
For sure. She can get help at the touch of a button for free.
Free? For all that and all?
Visit momentum.co.za or call 0860 006 784. Momentum Insure, keeping you safe on your journey to success. Momentum Insure is an authorized non-life insurer. T's and C's apply.
Gauteng is currently experiencing high water consumption. To avoid water interruptions, residents are urged to use water sparingly to allow equitable supply. Act now, save water. Every drop counts. This message is brought to you by the Department of Water and Sanitation, Rand Water, Gauteng Provincial Government, City of Johannesburg, City of Tshwane, and City of Ekurhuleni.
You're now listening to 702 Afternoon Drive with John Perlman. Brought to you by Telkom Business. Possible begins here.
This is EWN.
Tshwane MMC sidelined following commission claims and MP's caution against extended army deployment. Good afternoon, I'm Zingisa Chirwa. Tshwane MMC for Corporate and Shared Services, Khulufelo Morodi, has been placed on special leave. This comes after she was implicated at the Madlanga Commission earlier today. In December 2024, Morodi sent Gauteng Cop Sergeant Fani Mkosi internal bid specification documents relating to a number of open tenders at the municipality. In a statement, the municipality says Morodi will be stepping away from her duties pending a full investigation into her actions. Mayoral spokesperson Samgelo Mkopozi.
The City of Tshwane emphasizes that this measure does not constitute a finding of wrongdoing, nor does it imply any presumption of guilt. It reflects a principled commitment to transparency, accountability, and ensuring that all allegations are subjected to the appropriate scrutiny.
Meanwhile, the name of EFF leader Julius Malema has also come up at the Madlanga Commission as being possibly involved in tender manipulation at the Tshwane municipality. This relates to a 2024 tender by the Tshwane Metro Police Department, which wanted companies to guard some of the city's crucial infrastructure. Gauteng Cop Sergeant Fani Mkosi has been testifying at the Commission over his relationship with the Metro's senior officials and political leaders. Thabiso Koba reports.
In March last year, TMPD Deputy Chief Umashi Dlamini messaged Sergeant Fani Nkosi a list of 7 companies. In the WhatsApp message, Dlamini says the companies were given to him by people representing the EFF and CIC Juju. While Nkosi says he doesn't know who Dlamini was referring to, Juju is the nickname for EFF leader Julius Malema and is sometimes referred to as the CIC by his party.
They gave him these 7 companies. Then they further said to him, these companies belong to CIC Juju. And then they further elaborated that the same companies were also given to the CFO.
Nkosi says he forwarded the list of companies to the Chief Financial Officer, Gareth Mnisi. At this stage, it is still unclear whether the 7 companies were awarded the security tender. Thabiso Koba, Eyewitness News.
The chairpersons of Parliament's security cluster committees have warned against prolonging the deployment of the army to help fight crime. They've called on authorities to also focus on the socio-economic ills that continue to plague communities as part of a long-term strategy to deal with crime. The chairpersons were briefing the media on Parliament's oversight on crime, defence and national security matters. Madlanga reports.
It's been more than a month since President Cyril Ramaphosa announced the deployment of soldiers to assist in the fight against crime in various provinces. He said their role would be that of a force multiplier and not a permanent arrangement. Police Committee Chairperson Ian Cameron says the deployment may only help in the short to medium term.
I must, however, say it very clearly that a military deployment is not a long-term solution.
Portfolio Committee on Defense Chairperson Dakota Legwete says they want a permanent solution.
We want the army to come in to stabilize, but after that, as we are stabilizing, SARS must be in.
The chairpersons are confident the collaboration between the army and the police can succeed if they work together and remove kingpins, especially in illegal mining and organized crime. Madlanga, Eyewitness News, Parliament.
And the National Consumer Commission is urging consumers who own certain Land Cruiser LC300 vehicles to come forward. The Commission's recalled the cars, citing damage to the transmission housing. The recall affects 1,846 vehicles sold between the 8th of January last year and the 16th of January this year. Consumers are advised to take their vehicles to an authorized Toyota dealership for reprogramming of the transmission ECU, which will be carried out at no cost to the consumer. In your financials, gold is trading at $4,631.02 an ounce. The rand is 16.87 to the dollar, 22.43 to the pound, and 19.33 to the euro. Brent crude oil's at $113.02 a barrel.
In Rudaport, heading towards Soweto, there's slow-moving traffic on the N1 southbound between Bears, Naudé and 14th Avenue. In Devland, we still have that accident scene, N1 south after the Golden Highway, causing heavy delays from the Deep Kloof interchange. Still in Devland, roadworks causing some delays on the Golden Highway between the N1 and East Street.
In your sport, Themba Zwane back in the Bafana Bafana fold as Hugo Bruce looks to restore team's DNA. Igor Tudor switches to Premier League survival after Tottenham Hotspur's UEFA Champions League exit. And Johan Ackerman looks ahead to the Bulls United Rugby Championship clash against Cardiff tomorrow.
Gauteng can expect a partly cloudy Friday tomorrow with isolated showers and thundershowers expected. Johannesburg dropping to overnight lows of 14 degrees, rising to 27. Pretoria a low of 16 and a high of 28. Vereeniging 14 and 28 degrees. The top story in EWN this hour, Tshwane MMC for Corporate and Shared Services Khulufelo Morodi has been placed on special leave.
EWN, in touch, in tune and independent. For the latest, visit ewn.co.za or download the EWN app.
702.
Live
On the Prime Media Plus app.
DSTV channel 856
92.7
and 106 FM. Let's walk the talk.
Welcome back. This is 702 Afternoon Drive. My name is Khomotso Modise. I'm in for John Perlman this afternoon. It is the final hour of the show. It's 7 minutes past 5. That means we have just under an hour together. Thank you so much for tuning in and thank you for choosing us. We've got quite a bit coming in the next hour. I'm looking forward to a conversation with EWN Parliamentary reporter Babalo Ndenze. He's going to be helping us summarize what's happened in the ad hoc committee. So yesterday you saw that Jonan Dantamkhonazi testified until the early hours of this morning. And he sat there for more than 12 hours testifying. And so Babalo Ndenze is going to be summarizing what happened before the ad hoc committee and what else we can expect going forward on that in that process, because it's not completely over, even though the last witness has been heard. And then later on in the show, we're going to be having our song feature. And today we're speaking about songs that you had no business listening to as a child, and those lyrics that you sang with such confidence as a younger person, and now you listen back and you think, I shouldn't have been singing that song. I know there's a couple of songs like that, so get those ready for us just after 5:30. This is 702 Afternoon Drive. I'm taking your calls on 011 883 0702 and your WhatsApps on 072 702 1702.
702.
WhatsApp us on 072 702 1702.
Speaking about running into someone that you sort of recognize but can't remember their
exact details of how you know them, what their name is, everything. I am notorious with names. I cannot remember people's names. I'm really bad at it. My favorite strategy is to introduce my partner to them, or sort of introduce them to my partner. So what I'll do is I'll say, hey, have you met my partner so and so? And I turn to my partner, and then my partner knows to, reach his hand out to shake their hand, say his name, and hopefully in return they say their name. If it doesn't always work, but it does pretty often.
Hi guys, on the topic, yeah, how do you ask a person politely for their name? So in my region, I'm quite well known. So when somebody, if I'm in a public place and somebody says Magriz, then I know that person definitely knows me from social media. And for me, I guess it comes with that thing. You cannot expect me to know everybody from social media. So I nicely ask, Kana Kimang? Then I'm like, oh, okay. Then going forward, Lamuto, as a commenter on my posts, then I know I've now put the face to their name, So it goes like that. But if it's from anywhere else, church or anywhere, then they address me by name, and I will ask, can I make him how we keep it moving. I ask. I'm one person who, and once then I never forget the person's face.
Hello, Khomoto. That thing happens to me all the time, and it's embarrassing to ask the person's name. What I do, I just let them talk and get along with the conversation. They talk a lot until they reveal where I met them. It works for me. Freddy in Kempton Park.
Thank you so much for your voice notes. Yeah, I'm not sure. You see, the one who says they ask is brave.
Yeah,
eh?
no, definitely. I couldn't. You know which one is the most awkward one as well?
Yes.
Like the one that was talking about meeting people with their partners.
Yes.
So sometimes I would meet colleagues and I'll be with my partner.
Yes.
And I'll be like, hi, this is my partner, Musa, this is... And
then you freeze.
And it happens quite a lot. And geez, it's cringeworthy, eh? But yeah.
No, you see, you mustn't say, Musa, this is... You must say, hey, this is my partner, Musa. Full stop. And then Musa says, hi. And then the person hopefully says, hi, I'm Komoto. Yeah, listen, I didn't know what to say. That lady, she left after the conversation that I had with her at church, and I called my mom after, and I said, when I met who came to me at church, and I tried to describe her, she thinks she knows who I'm talking about, but yeah, she's not sure. We're talking about the clever ways that you go about getting a person's name when you... after having, or if you meet them and you don't really recognize them, or you do a bit, but you don't remember their names, do you have a trick or a way that you go about getting their names? Or do you have a polite way of saying, sorry, what's your name again? I don't think there's ever a polite way of doing that. Maybe there is, but I don't think I could ever do it without feeling bad.
Would you feel bad if somebody's asked for your name? Like, you know their name
no,
and...
I'm offended.
You're offended?
How dare you not know?
I wouldn't be, eh?
Really?
Yeah.
You say,
yeah, at least you're brave enough to ask, and I'm happy to give you my name.
That's an interesting way of looking at it. All right, we're taking more of your calls on 011 883 0702 072 702 1702.
EWN Traffic.
This EWN Traffic is brought to you by Outsurance. SMS out to 45142 now, and you could save on car insurance. If you don't, ask them for 500 Rand. Grabs, what's the traffic looking like?
Homes at this hour, bumper traffic in Rudaport heading towards Soweto N1 South or between Bayers Nordia and 14th Avenue in Devland roadworks, slowing down traffic on the Golden Highway between the N1 and East Street, while in the Joburg CBD, traffic pressure on the M1 southbound from Killarney Benz to the Crown Interchange. Edenvale, slow-moving traffic. That's on the R24 westbound heading towards Bedford View. Between Edenvale Road and the Giluli's Interchange, driving through Alexandra heading towards Germiston. There's still about a 30-minute delay on the N3 southbound from the Butler Interchange to Linksfield Road in Brakpan. Roadworks causing heavy delays on the N17 eastbound approaching Carnival City. For the latest traffic update, you can also follow us on X at EWN Traffic.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app.
All right, it is 17:13 or 13 minutes past 5. Now, you know that feeling when you discover an awesome new series to binge? That's how good it feels to see the Outsurance pointsmen on your route. Less stress in traffic, knowing they're on the roads. The Outsurance pointsmen have been easing the traffic congestion so everyone gets where they need to be quickly and safely for the past 20 years. With Outsurance, you really always get something out. In proud partnership with 702, show them some love online using hashtag #PointsmanLove. Licensed insurer and FSP.
Driving the conversation on 702 Afternoon Drive with John Perlman. Powered by Telkom Business. Possible begins here.
Clement Maniatella.
Weekday mornings,
9 to 12.
9 to 12.
What do you still want to do?
There's a whole lot that I want to do in my life. I haven't stopped. Number one, I promised myself that I will start directing by the age of 50. But instead of directing the age of 50, I started dancing.
Started dancing at 50?
Yeah, because I was celebrating. And when the clock went boom, midnight, and I was 50, and I told myself every Friday I am going to dance. I called it Friday Moves on Instagram, and I danced throughout the year. That's what I wanted to do, because guess what, Clement? There's a whole lot of people that were in Barra with me at the same time with my mother when I was born that are not here anymore. So I'll rather enjoy this as much as I possibly can.
The legendary actor Kenneth Nkosi.
Clement Maniatella.
9 to 12 on 702.
For Olwethu Nxumalo of Ozide Rentals and Custom Dressmaking, every stitch is a story. What's your Telkom business chapter?
What made Telkom business stand out from all the rest was how fast everything was.
And with voice calling and fiber from Telkom Business, she stitches together inquiries and sources fabric online without dropping a thread.
Get unlimited VoIP 1 from 99 Rand per month and Stream Connect Fiber from 399 Rand per month. Call 10213 or click telkom.co.za. T's and C's apply. Telkom Business. Possible begins here.
Brush, stroke, paint, color, protect, and admire. From roof paint to exterior textures and interior silk, Warrior Paints has it all. The product range and stylish colors are amazing. And what's more, Warrior Paints has crushed prices for incredible savings. Enjoy that good old-fashioned personal service you deserve. For price, quality, variety, and service, Warrior Paints is street ahead. Warrior Paints, affordable, lasting, luxury.
Let's hear from Shemaine, owner of Vovotello Linwood, why it pays to switch to Outsurance Business Insurance.
I wish we had switched sooner. Not only was it quick and easy, but also gave us more favorable premiums.
For restaurants, pharmacies, and all other businesses, get a quote today and see why it pays to switch to Outsurance Business Insurance. Visit outsurance.co.za or call 08600 60,000 today. Licensed insurer and FSP. TCs and information online.
Sometimes all it takes to reshape the world and deliver better outcomes is a little unconventional thinking. Black Sheep Thinking, powered by Camissa Asset Management.
In the 19th century in Europe, particularly around the 1850s, many expectant mothers were dying at terrifying rates from childbirth. Women who went in to deliver babies in hospitals, going in perfectly healthy, would sometimes not survive. Doctors blamed bad air, blamed fate, or sometimes they said it was the fault of the women themselves. And then a doctor, Ignaz Schemmelweis, he noticed that maybe one of the things they ought to do is wash their hands. Germ theory did not yet exist, and so many of the doctors did not believe. We look back now, and of course he was absolutely right, and that's the power of Black Sheep Thinking.
Black Sheep Thinking, every Tuesday on 702 Breakfast with Bongani Bingwa, powered by Camissa Asset Management. Invest different. Camissa Asset Management is a licensed FSP on 702.
702.
Let's walk the talk on 92.7
and 106 FM.
Welcome back to Afternoon Drive. It is 17:17 right here on 702. Thank you for tuning in. So, on the 6th of July, 2025, something happened in this country that changed our lives, I believe, forever. General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi got on a podium and he gave an explosive press briefing. And after that, there was a series of events that followed. We saw President Cyril Ramaphosa respond and said when he comes back into the country, he was away on a trip. He said when he comes back, he will give a formal response and a way forward. And it was announced that we would get the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry. Thereafter, we also saw Parliament saying, hold on, we also want to have our process, our own process, where an ad hoc committee will investigate these claims as well. It's the claims of corruption within the justice and security cluster, and it must be investigated by Parliament as well. So on the 5th of August 2025, the committee scheduled its first meeting to elect a chairperson, and ultimately, Soviet Lakhanyane was elected as the chairperson. On the 7th of October 2025, we saw the first witness take the stand before Parliament, and that was Lieutenant General Ndlandla Mkhwanazi, there to go into further depth about the allegations that he made during the July 6th press briefing. Now we've reached the very end, or what seems to be the end of the first part of the parliamentary process. We've seen General Ndlandla Mkhwanazi return to the ad hoc committee, tying it up in a little bow. And he's given his testimony, responding to the allegations that have been made against him by those who were called to testify after him. But what happens now? What's the way forward? What can we expect in Parliament? And what does this process actually even mean? Here to help us make sense of it all is EWN parliamentary reporter Babalo Ndenze. And he's been following the story very closely, so he's the perfect person to help us make sense of it. Babalo, thank you so much for your time. I think that it feels like it was yesterday when this process started. It's been, if I'm counting correctly, 5 months since that first sitting of the ad hoc committee, and a lot has happened. But talk us through the last 5 months in Parliament. We've heard testimony from a number of people, those who are implicated, those who side with General Ndlandla Mkhwanazi, and some who are persons who have wanted to weigh in, and some of those who wanted to speak about the general crime problem within the justice cluster and not necessarily the allegations made by General Ndlandla Mkhwanazi. It's been quite an interesting 5 months, hasn't it been?
Yes, indeed, Homo. It's an interesting 5 months. It was supposed to be shorter than 5 months. So if you remember, there were, I think, 3 extensions. The first extension was granted in September. The second one a bit later in November, before the latest extension at the beginning of this year, which put March 31 as the final day for the committee to do its work. But the hearings have ended just before that date. So we've heard evidence. I counted, I think, no less than 16, 17 witnesses. Now, these are, key witnesses. I'm not including the public submissions. We've had about 248 public submissions. Some were written. A few of them were oral. We had a week where they came and presented. And some of these public submissions were also either for Mkhwanazi or against, him, or were in support of what he did in July last year, as well as the process in trying to, find those implicated, accountable. So we've wrapped up that process with Mkhwanazi's evidence, yesterday. It was his second day. His initial evidence was on October 7th and 8th. He was on the witness stand for 2 days. So in total, 3 days, Mkhwanazi testified before the committee over the last 5.5 months. But his testimony yesterday almost felt like, the first testimony, because it was also quite explosive. A lot of old information responding to these allegations that we are all aware of. But he also presented some new information. He presented, some exhibits. He presented a handwritten letter that is further implicating Senzo Mchunu, the minister on special leave, saying that, he had organized lawyers to speak to Kat Matlala to get him to, sign an affidavit saying that he has no connection to him whatsoever. This gentleman who wrote this handwritten letter was shared a prison cell with Kat Matlala. He also, said a few things about meeting with Kat Matlala. He never admitted this in his initial evidence that he met with Kat Matlala in Durban sometime last year. Matlala did reveal this during his evidence at the Hoshi Mampuru Correctional Facility in November. So, Mkhwanazi was supposed to also respond to some of these submissions that were made, but he did admit that, he did meet with Kat Matlala, but there were no exchanges of anything. There were no gratuitous payments. It was purely a meeting with a source, someone that was helping with the investigation into, criminal activity within the police in Gauteng specifically. Yeah. And linking Chadrick Sibia to be specific or just to focus on a specific person. So, quite an explosive final closing evidence or testimony session by Mkhwanazi. But now we just expect the committee now moving forward, Khomotso, to take all this in and collate all of this evidence. They will dismiss some of the evidence from people that they felt were unreliable witnesses, the likes of Brown Mahotsi, the likes of, Shadrach Sibia again. So they will go through this evidence. I think their next meeting is on Monday, which will be an ordinary housekeeping meeting or just a planning meeting to discuss the draft report. So I think we do expect another lengthy session, which will be dealing with this evidence and this draft report that will also come with, recommendations and what should happen to certain individuals as well as people that are public representatives, the minister, and the police. So we are at that process now after a lengthy 5.5 months or almost 6 months, almost.
Yeah. And let's speak about the quality of the testimony that's been heard before the ad hoc committee, because the people that are Team Madlanga Commission, these are the people that say they'd rather watch the Madlanga Commission, as opposed to the ad hoc committee. They always speak about the questions that are asked in ad hoc, how it seems that a lot of it is politically motivated, and they feel that the quality of the testimony at the Madlanga Commission is far more valuable than the ad hoc committee. Speak to me about the quality that we've heard there. I mean, apart from all the dramatic scenes that we've seen, we saw Paul O'Sullivan at some point storm out. Was it good quality testimony and evidence that's been given for a decision to be made by the parliamentarians?
I think one, you can almost single out the good quality evidence that was being led by either the members of the committee and the evidence leaders. But there were witnesses where there was a lot of political, point scoring. There were some political gimmicks by members of the committee. We do know that these are political parties and they also have these political agendas. We did see that some witnesses were treated differently by members of the committee. Some were treated more leniently. But I think the quality of the evidence is quite different to Madlanga Commission, because the Madlanga Commission had more resources. They had a forensic investigator. They knew absolutely everything. They had, all the transactions in the files. But they were complaining about this at the ad hoc committee that, we don't have capacity. We don't have forensic capacity, I think most importantly, as well as the, technical team, the evidence leaders. It's a limited team. It's just 3 individuals. It's Norman Aronser and his 2 assistants or people that are helping him, and this is Advocate Mkhwaiti as well as Advocate Mkhize, who have been helping him through the process. But the feeling is that there's been a less quality before the ad hoc committee, mainly because of the political inputs and the involvement of political parties. Dr. Mkhwanazi, may have heard him yesterday himself saying that, he's been watching the ad hoc committee, throughout the night. He'd fall asleep sometimes watching it, and he says he felt concerned that some members of the committee were, prejudging the evidence, and they were just, coming up with their own conclusions before they got to the final stage of the process. So there is that, element of, prejudging, as well as, not being consistent with how you treat witnesses. They're quite harsh on Paul O'Sullivan, maybe understandably because they wanted to get to the bottom of this influence within IPID and the police, etc. But there definitely is a big gulf in terms of quality, and one could sense it, besides the long, lengthy hours into the middle of the night, that didn't really make the ad hoc committee a better process because they sat late into the night, and Madlanga Commission would knock off at 5 o'clock at the latest. But it was more quite incisive in terms of leading evidence, Madlanga. Whereas there were even complaints by members of this committee about the evidence leaders. They would attack not just the technical team, the legal advisors that are employed by Parliament. Members of the committee would also attack Norman Aronser, the evidence leader. So that was a bit of a concern, I think, not just for people that are observing, but just also for members of the media and those that are reporting on the process.
So what happens now?
Okay, so now they meet on Monday, and then they'll give us a kind of a clearer, time frame of what they will be doing. But we do expect, the committee to discuss this draft report. I've been speaking to some of the technical team during this process, and they've been telling me that, the report is there. They've been working on it all along. They just keep updating it as they go along with each new piece of evidence and testimony. So there is a draft report that's almost ready, but the technical team needs about 9 or 10 days to finally complete this draft report before the committee now discusses it and debates it at length, and they will have to agree on everything the paragraphs. They'll have to agree on the recommendations at the very end, and what happens to the people that are implicated. They might either set up a subcommittee of the committee, which will have fewer members and will be more focused, but they will still be pushing their party lines even in the subcommittee. And then they will come up with a final report, Khomotso, which will then go before the National Assembly, which will also be its own separate process. They will debate that in the chamber, in the House. They will choose a day where they will debate it, and then they will vote on it at the end of the day, whether they agree that this final report is the report that we want, these are the recommendations we want, these are the reforms that we want to be implemented by the legislature, either legislative amendments or change of policy when it comes.
All right, Babalu Ndenze, EWN reporter, thank you so much for your time. We'll be keeping a close eye on that parliamentary process, and I know Babalo will give us more in the EWN bulletins.
EWN Business.
Stephen Quartus, you've got more of our money news, a weaker rand and a higher oil price?
Yeah, very bad news, I'm afraid. It's a bit like trying to get Parliament to agree on something. Basically, lots of bad news. So the gold price falling to around $4,630. Platinum down to the rand is weaker. The JSE All Share pushed down to 2.76%, 110,572. Financials down 0.84. Industrials down 1.3. Resources down 6.38% on the day. We see, of course, that there are some winners. So Tungela's up 6%, Sasol's up 5.5%. Boxer also up 3%, and Pepkor, Truworths and Discovery all up by around 2%. So that's interesting in the consumer shares. But the real damage is in mining. Sibanye, Implats, Panaf all down by around 10%. Volterra, Northam, Harmony all down by around 9%. Anglo Gold down by about 7% on the day. Momentum announcing today their headline earnings up 8% in the 6 months to the end of December. They're chasing Discovery Health after winning the tender to administer the Bonitas Medical Fund. We'll hear from their CEO, Jeanette Marais, on the Money Show tonight. And Exxaro also up on the day after reporting their revenue up 3% for the financial year to the end of December. But Investec saying that their headline earnings per share for the year to the end of March will only rise by between 0 and 2%. So not great news for them there. In the US, the Dow Jones also responding to higher oil prices. Now, in the last sort of hour or so, several European countries, so Italy, France, Germany, they basically said that they would try and intervene with higher energy prices and would take appropriate measures to secure the Strait, by which they mean the Strait of Hormuz. I mean, Trump may be getting what he wants, but it's very early days in this. The Dow Jones down 0.59%. The Nasdaq is down 0.47%. The S&P 500 is down 0.43%. The gold price $4,631.73 an ounce. Platinum $1,950.62. Brent crude not really responding to that measure just yet, $110.50. And the rand to the dollar 16.86, to the euro 19.43, to the British pound 22.55. On the Money Show tonight, yes, momentum. We'll speak to the CEO at Exxaro. We will also speak to the business rescue practitioner at the post office. I think that's going to be quite important. There's been claims that it's being liquidated. That's not true. I do want to get him to say it. As you know, Khomotso, you want him to give you the soundbite. He needs to say it. Anush Ruplal on your Money Show this evening. And then also from 7:30 in Investment School, we will be talking about why investment strategies work in some places and in some times and not in others. Very interesting. Stephen Quartus, EWN Business.
All right, lots coming on The Money Show with Stephen Curtis from 6 p.m. It is just after 5:30. It's time now for the EWN headlines with Zingisa Chira. Zingi, good afternoon.
Thanks, Khomotso. Good afternoon. Tshwane MMC for Corporate and Shared Services, Khulufelo Morodi, has been placed on special leave. This comes after she was implicated at the Madlanga Commission earlier today. In December 2024, Morodi sent a Gauteng cop, Sergeant Fani Ngosi, internal bid specification documents relating to a number of open tenders at the municipality. In a statement, the municipality says Morodi will be stepping away from her duties pending a full investigation into her actions. Mayoral spokesperson Samgelo Mkopozi.
The City of Tshwane emphasizes that this measure does not constitute a finding of wrongdoing, nor does it imply any presumption of guilt. It reflects a principled commitment to transparency, accountability, and ensuring that all allegations are subjected to the appropriate scrutiny.
Meanwhile, the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry has heard evidence on how Gauteng Cop Sergeant Fani Ngosi tried to intervene in an invoice dispute between the Tshwane municipality and a service provider. This despite the fact that Ngosi had no official stake in the company, nor was he employed by the Metro. The incident is part of a long list of questions Ngosi was asked in relation to his relationship with some senior officials at the capital. Thabiso Koba has more.
In March last year, Tshwane Metro Police Deputy Chief Umashi Dlamini messaged Sergeant Fani Ngosi about a service provider who was complaining about their invoices not being paid by the Tshwane municipality. Ngosi then forwarded the messages to his friend, Tshwane's Chief Financial Officer, Gareth Mnisi. There would be a number of back and forth messages between the three men, with Ngosi acting as an intermediary between the two senior officials.
What business of yours was it to start sorting out disputes between the city and its supplier?
I was only helping the CFO with the frustration that the service provider was threatening to take the city to court. So as a result, the CFO was getting frustrated. Now as my friend, I'm getting worried. My friend, now the road is going to be long.
The service provider in question was Gubi's Security Services, believed to be linked to taxi boss Joe Sibanyoni. WhatsApp messages before the Madlanga Commission show Sergeant Kosi and Sibanyoni are close. Thabiso Koba, Eyewitness News.
The ANC has emphasized its upcoming March on Human Rights Day is not an attack on government, but rather a reminder that South Africa is still far from achieving its goal of equality. The party has announced that it's preparing to embark on what it calls the People's March in Johannesburg on Saturday. Various speakers will reflect on both government's achievements and its shortcomings since the dawn of democracy. ANC Secretary General Fikile Mbalula says the march is intended to defend South Africa's hard-earned democracy.
On the 21st of March, the people of this country will rise not in disorder, but in disciplined formation, not in anger, but in purposeful resolve, not in fragmentation, but in unity of a nation that understands both its history and its power. This is a march that carries the voice of the workers, the hopes of the youth, the resilience of women, and the aspirations of communities across the length and breadth of our country.
And actor Kevin Spacey has agreed to an out-of-court settlement with the men who've accused him of sexual assault. The BBC is reporting that the upcoming trial, which was set for the High Court in London this year, has now been frozen following the settlement. The men alleged the 66-year-old assaulted them between 2000 and 2013. No details of the settlements between Spacey and his accusers have been revealed. And in your weather, Gauteng can expect a partly cloudy Friday tomorrow with isolated showers and thundershowers expected. Temperatures dropping to overnight lows of between 14 and 16 degrees and peaking at highs of between 27 and 28.
Road report heading towards Soweto bumper traffic. This is on the N1 southbound between Bayers, Nodia and 14th Avenue. There's also traffic pressure in the Joburg CBD heading towards Boysons. This is on the M1 southbound between Killarney Bends and the Crown Interchange.
The top story in EWN. Tshwane MMC for Corporate and Shared Services, Khulufelo Morodi, has been placed on special leave.
Take a ride back to the greatest decades in music.
Because Saturdays on 702
are all about timeless tunes.
At 10 a.m.
Kenny Maestri sets the stage with the greatest hits of the 80s
and 90s. At 2 p.m., Pushaza Sibia keeps the nostalgia flowing
with more classics you can't help but sing along to.
Then at 5 p.m., Richard Mwamba
celebrates the sounds of the continent
with This Is Africa.
It's more than just music.
It's your Saturday wrapped in the sounds you love.
Only on 702.
702.
Let's walk the talk.
Without insurance, saving on your car insurance feels like getting the last booty roll at the office braai. 40-year-old Rafiq saves a whopping $899 on his 2017 Navara 4x4. Get a quote now, and if OutSurance can't save you money, ask for 500 Rand or 1,500 Rand if you've been claim-free and with the same insurer for 3 years. Get savings or cash. SMS OUT to 45142. That's OUT to 45142. OutSurance, licensed insurer and FSP. T's and C's and information online.
Remember when you had to hurry up and wait, and cars could only run on fossil fuels? Well, hurry up and catch up. You don't need diesel power, you just need a second electric motor. With Volvo plug-in hybrids, you can drive electric in the city, switch to fuel for the long haul, or combine both when you want it all. So what are you waiting for? You're late for your test drive. It's safe to be brave with Volvo.
Illegal water connections have serious consequences for the city's water supply. When pipelines are tampered with, it damages infrastructure, reduces system pressure, and can leave entire communities without water. Johannesburg Water continues to remove illegal connections and strengthen monitoring across the network to protect supply. Residents are encouraged to report illegal connections or suspicious activity to the City of Johannesburg on 0800 002 587. Protect our water infrastructure. Protect our water supply. Brought to you by Johannesburg Water, a water and sanitation utility that cares.
702.
WhatsApp us on 072 702 1702.
Okay, here's the thing when it comes to unrecognizable faces. I'm so old I've got 5 digits in my age, and this is what I do. If it's somebody my own age, I say, wow, you're looking great, you know, you never change, and carry on as though I know them well. If it's somebody young who comes up and greets, I just say, wow, you young people change at such a rate. Just jog my memory, who are you now? And that works perfectly for me. But I know not many people are near my age. So enjoy your youth. Cheers. Bye.
Good afternoon, Anonymous from the Strand. I'm finding this conversation very interesting because when I was in my early 20s, in the 80s, I wanted to buy a property which would have been 90,000 Rand. And I mean, if I had bought it at that age, I would have been very happy today. But I was brought up in a traditional household which stated you can't move out of home before you're married. And that was the biggest mistake of my life. I think I could have given my children that legacy of a property. So yeah, it's interesting to hear that the women are getting into the market like this. Fantastic.
Yeah. Listen, you know, that's something that a relative once said to me. I was also in my mid-20s and, you know, I was thinking of buying something small, something modest, but it was property. And a relative of mine said, you want to buy a house for a man? Now, I wasn't married. I didn't have a husband. I'm married now. But her assumption was whoever was going to marry me would end up benefiting from my house. And while I know that she was well-meaning, yeah, in hindsight, I actually think I should have bought the property. Of course, we're speaking about that recent data from APSA about how more single women, more than 50% of their first-time homeowners are single women. And I think that's absolutely amazing. And a big part of it really is just the fact that women are getting married later. And they're thinking, I'm not going to leave my big life decisions late just because I'm an unmarried woman. What if I never get married? Does that mean I'll never buy a house? Yeah, so it's a really interesting conversation there. And I think it's lovely to see more women buying. And it's not just in comparison to their male counterparts, hey? It's also in comparison to couples. You'd expect couples would be, you know, moving to buy property more because you've got that dual income household if you are lucky in South Africa. And, you know, you're making that decision together, stability for your family. But no, single women are still leading in the first-time home owners. And I think that's really, really interesting. And then on the voice note that's come on the names, thank you so much for that. I think that saying that to an older person, you haven't changed one bit is so clever. I think it's very clever and it makes you sound like you know who they are. And hopefully you'll never have to ask or find out. Thank you so much for your voice notes and thank you for your calls.
EWN Sport.
It is time for sport with Tola. Tola Galemganga, good afternoon.
Afternoon, Khumotso. While Hugo Bruce admits that Themba Zwane's return to the national team is an attempt to restore Bafana Bafana's DNA following a disappointing showing at AFCON, South Africa returned to action in back-to-back friendlies against Panama later this month, and the big news from the squad announcement is a call-up of Ronaldo Lanier ahead of Sipho Chain in the goalkeeper department. For Mshishi, his inclusion comes after he recovered from an ACL injury last year.
You don't have to hesitate when that guy is fit, and I don't. So we will see now, because again, we have to see how fit he is and what he can bring us with the national team. So, and I hope that we can have again Themba Zwane, who is really very important for that team. He's a very experienced player. You don't hear him, but everyone has respect for him. And I see also in Sundowns. Everyone has respect for him. And sometimes it's very important to have such a player in your team.
At the same time, Bruce has discussed what he's searching for when he speaks about Bafana's DNA, having said it was not on display at the Africa Cup of Nations.
Even important as the quality is the mentality. When you don't have the right mentality, it's very difficult and it can ruin the atmosphere in the group. Third, you have the discipline. When you can't have the discipline to come, for example, on time for meals, you will not have the discipline to follow the tactical rules that the coach give you in the field. It is like that. And there is your attitude as a professional player.
Igor Tudor believes that Tottenham Hotspur now have the momentum to survive the drop after the UEFA Champions League win over Atletico Madrid. While that victory wasn't enough to see Spurs advance to the quarterfinals, it made it 2 games unbeaten under their interim coach, who now switches attention to their Premier League relegation fight.
2 games before was not impossible. It's not impossible to judge these 2 games because what happened 20 minutes is Madrid. There is nothing about coach, team, tactic, trainings. There is about nothing. I believe Crystal Palace game before we have 1-0, totally control of the game, red card. So nothing about, In football, you need to confirmation every day, every Sunday. So there is on Sunday important game, as we know, but it will not decide nothing yet. As I said before, it will be decide everything last 2-3 games.
And the Bulls take on Cardiff tomorrow night as the United Rugby Championship action continues. Marcel Kadzia will continue to captain despite the return of Ruan Nokia, and coach Johan Akamazin explained what that means for the franchise's leadership structure.
While Ruan was gone, Marcel, we felt, did a really good job. On tour, I had a discussion with both of them. I said, listen, we can either go back to Ruan captaining or Marcel keep on captaining while it's going well. And then if we start rotating and Marcel is not on the field, then obviously the mantle will fall on Ruan. And they're so good friends and they support each other so well that, Ruan was comfortable that Marcel must just keep on going with the captaincy while he's playing.
Tolagele Mganga, Eyewitness News Sport.
EWN Traffic.
The CWN Traffic is brought to you by South African Airways. Get all-inclusive fares, your seat, your meal and your baggage. It's all in. Book at flysaa.com. Karabo Jale, how's the traffic looking?
Well, at the stage in Hermanstad, leaving the Pretoria CBD, there's slow-moving traffic on Eskiam Pahlele. This is between WF Nkomo and the R80. Traveling towards Fourways in Bryanston, traffic sluggish on the N1 southbound between the Platoon Change and Winnie Mandela Drive. Heading into the Joburg CBD, traveling towards Boysons. There's traffic pressure on the M1 southbound from Killarney Bends all the way to the Crown Interchange in Alex, traveling towards Germiston. You can still expect about a 30-minute delay on the N3 southbound from the Platoon Change all the way to Linksfield Road. If you come across any other traffic issues, kindly WhatsApp us on 072-702-1702.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app.
This is what progress sounds like. At South African Airways, we've added more aircraft to the runway, increased our flights from just over 1,000 in 2021 to over 24,000 last year. And we continue to add more destinations and routes. It's steady progress over time. We know there's still work to do, but every day we're building something stronger. An airline that shares the resilience of the country it carries. South African Airways. Book your next flight at flysaa.com today.
Stay with 702 Afternoon Drive with John Perlman. Brought to you by Telkom Business. Possible begins here.
702
Let's walk the talk on 92.7
and 106 FM.
It's Afternoon Drive right here on 702, and my name is Khomotsa Modise. I'm in for John Perlman this afternoon. It is time for a bit of music, and I'm looking forward to the songs that we're choosing today because I was actually thinking there's so much music that I heard as a child that I, now in hindsight, and now that I listen back to the songs, I had no business listening or singing this song as a child, especially as, a 10, 9, 10, 11-year-old, right? And some of those songs now, they come up on the radio or I'll hear them somewhere and I think, and I want to sing along. But now, with age, and I'm, I suppose that naivety is gone. I don't know if it's naivety or innocence, but it's gone. And now I actually know what the song is about and what they're singing about. And I thought, what's that one song that you sang with such confidence as a child that you loved so much and you had no idea what they were talking about? And now when you listen back to the song, you think, I had no business singing this song and no child should be singing this song. And I'm going to go first. One of those songs that I used to love was Rihanna, Unfaithful. I used to love Rihanna as a child. She was very popular at the time. She still is, I think. And the song Unfaithful was one that I knew word for word. I still do. And when I sing it now, I think, what was 9-year-old Khomotso singing about Unfaithful? So I wanted to take a listen to that, but also I want to hear from you. What's that song that you now listen to and you think, I shouldn't have sang the song, or I had no business singing this as a child or as a teen, and only now do I realize exactly what the song was about? Let's take some Rihanna.
Story of my life, searching for the right, but it keeps avoiding me. Sorrow in my soul, cause it seems that wrong really loves my company. He's more than a man, and this is more than love. The reason that the sky is blue, the clouds are rolling in because I'm gone again, and to him I just can't be true. And I know that he knows I'm unfaithful, and it kills him inside to know that I am happy with some other guy. I can see him dying. I don't wanna do this anymore. I don't wanna be the reason why. Every time I walk out the door, I see him die a little more inside. I don't wanna hurt him anymore. I don't wanna take away his life. I don't wanna be a murderer. I feel it in the air as I'm doing my hair, preparing for another day. A kiss upon my cheek is here reluctantly, as if I'm gonna be out late. I say I won't be long, just hanging with the girls. A lie I didn't have to tell, because we both know where I'm about to go, and we know it very well, cause I know that he knows I'm
That's Rihanna, Unfaithful. I mean, Khomotso was, how old was I? I was 12. This was in 2006-ish. I'm revealing my age now, but I was in grade 6 when the song came out, and I don't want to do this. That time I had no business. Who am I doing this anymore to? Absolutely no one. Not in grade 6. Okay, we're taking the songs that you have no business listening to, or you had no business listening to and knowing word for word as a child, but you did. We'll take more of those after this.
I don't wanna be a murderer.
In the last 24 hours, this is what's happened in your world.
The Madlanga Commission has heard that the EFF and Action SA in the city of Tshwane allegedly colluded with senior officials to rig a multi-million rand security tender. Sergeant Faninkosi, an organized crime officer in Gauteng who has been testifying before the commission, has been implicated.
In 2024, the Tshwane Metro Police Department advertised a tender looking for security companies to protect municipal infrastructure for a period of 3 years. According to evidence before the Madlanga Commission, TMPD's Deputy Chief Umashi Dlamini drew up a list of 7 preferred companies he allegedly received from the EFF. The list was passed on to Sergeant Faninkosi.
EWN, in touch, in tune, and independent.
This 23rd March, join Freedom Park and the National Heritage Council as we commemorate the Battle of Cuito-Cuanavale, a defining moment in Southern Africa's journey to freedom. Be part of a powerful day of reflection on resistance and liberation heritage, featuring a public lecture, wreath-laying ceremony, and messages of solidarity from Africa or African and international partners. Let's honor the courage, unity, and sacrifice that shaped our democracy. Freedom Park, Pretoria, on the 23rd of March, 2026. Be there. Be part of the legacy.
There's always One Oak. The One Oak who's got it all. Proper chair, proper braai, backup light, extra wood, cooler that actually keeps ice iced. Now's your chance to be that oak. Join us this Easter for Chamberlain's superb Easter saving from 19 March to 6 April. Grab the 10-coat camping chair for just 449 Rand and gear up properly for a lekker long weekend. Plus, enjoy 10% of paint mixing on Chamber Value and Finest 1903 paints. Chamberlain, famous for hardware since 1903.
The Money Show.
Weekday evenings at 6.
Fuel prices go up, let's just say an average of 7 Rand. We'll start to see the impact on food price inflation and everything else probably within a month.
Most certainly, already in the April CPI figure, you will see how fuel inflation on a month-on-month basis could be as high as over 20%. That will raise headline inflation initially, but we're also very concerned about the second-round impact. So how much does that really get passed on to the consumer?
Koketso Mano is a senior economist.
The Money Show
on 702. Let's walk the talk.
The Money Show, Stephen Curtis, is brought to you by ABSA Corporate and Investment Banking. Trade powers Africa's growth, and businesses that succeed are those able to manage risk, optimize liquidity, and move confidently across markets. ABSA Corporate and Investment Banking helps enable your trade flows for growth. ABSA is a registered FSP. T's and C's apply.
All right, 702 Drive with John Perlman was proudly brought to you by Telkom Business. Possible begins here.
702.
WhatsApp us on 072 702 1702.
Hi, Khomotso. So I used to listen to En Vogue. They've got a song called Giving Him Something He Can Feel. Now that I'm older and I see the lyrics, I'm absolutely horrified. This is Isabella.
Hello. How are you? Jablani. So I think for me it's Whitney Houston, serving all my life for you. I didn't understand that it was a cheating song, sort of like. Thank you.
Yes.
To resist being last on your list, but no other man's gonna do. So I'm saving all my love for you.
Oh, I even remember singing this song at a school talent show. I had no business singing this. I mean, I got to get ready just a few minutes. What? Where are we with that? All right, we are taking more of your requests.
Hi, Khomotso. I wasn't that young. I think I was in my early 20s, but I had no concept of what the words were. It's a song called Too Shy. I don't know who sings it, but I think it's very risque. Thank you. Bye.
Hi, you know what? 702, hi, this is Yolande from Centurion. This song that I had no business singing at the age of 7, 8. It was by Joe. I don't know what his surname is. I think it's Joe Thomas. He sang, I want to know what turns you on.
Yes.
Oh, that song. I don't know what I was busy singing. I had no idea. And then he also has another song, Love Scene. No, man. A child, even a teenager, had no business singing those songs. Yolande from Centurion.
It's amazing how you knock me off my feet. Every time you come around me, I get weak. Oh, yeah. Nobody ever made me feel this way. Oh, kiss my lips and then you take my breath away. So understood what you were worth.
Yep, I remember singing this too as a young child, and I think I don't know what I thought they meant when they said I want to know what turns you on. I think I thought they meant what makes you happy. I think so, right? But we're talking about songs that you had no business singing as a child, and you knew them word for word, and now you think about it and you think, what was I doing singing this as a child? I think we've got more requests.
Mine was actually Bohemian Rhapsody. I think it's with Lauryn Hill. And there was a movie that came out that time in my very early teen years with Michelle Pfeiffer and a school. Yeah, I don't think that song was appropriate. And yes.
Mama just killed a man, put a gun against his head, pulled my trigger, now he's dead. Mama, life has just begun, but now I've gone and thrown it all away. Mama, ooh, I didn't mean to make you cry. If I'm not back again this time tomorrow, carry on. Nothing really matters.
Yep, that's one of those. Someone else on the WhatsApp line saying, I used to sing Ego by Beyonce. And you know what? I get it. Ego was also one of those. Even now, it's a little subliminal. It's not very direct. But I think from the dancing, I could tell that something was going on here. All right, it's been fantastic. Thank you so much for tuning in. This was 702 Afternoon Drive with me, Khomotso Modise. I'm back in for John Perlman tomorrow. For now, though, it's time for The Money Show.
The truth, Mama.
And now, The Money Show.
With Stephen Grootes, live on 92.7 and 106 FM. Streaming on the Prime Media Plus app.
And DSTV channel 856.
The Money Show with Stephen Grootes is brought to you by Absa Corporate and Investment Banking, proud sponsors of GTR Africa 2026, enabling trade